subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Retreating figure. Douluo Yan's eyes fell on Lu Haoli and said with a sinister smile, "LV Baoan, remember our agreement. Let's have a spirit battle in the practical class tomorrow morning. However, I advise you to pretend to be sick and not come to class tomorrow. Otherwise, you will experience life worse than death under my green phosphorus and purple poison." Lu Haoli snorted coldly. "I hope your strength is stronger than your mouth. Don't let me beat you until you cry, and you can complain to your grandfather. I will definitely beat you up tomorrow." After saying these harsh words, Douluo Yan walked towards the foggy forest at the edge of the mountaintop. The mimicry field there is suitable for the cultivation of poisonous martial spirits like the jade phosphorus snake. Yu Tianheng went to the electric field mimicry area. Oslo Yufeng and Graphite Stone Mo walked into the forest where animals were kept in captivity, leaving only Lu Baobao and Yi Lingling staying in place. It's not because of a tacit understanding, but because Qin Ming just said that the two of them were practicing in the same mimicry field, and Qin Ming also told them to strengthen their relationship. Lu Liang had the same plan. It was a rare opportunity to come to Douluo continent, and he didn't want to miss the female character mentioned in the original work. In his opinion, Douluo beauty and fairy grass are the same. Whether it belongs to him or not, it is undoubtedly a pity if it is taken away by others. Let's go. Our mimicry field is located near the Dean's building. It is a garden-like bush with various flowers and plants growing there. If you need a mimicry field with plenty of sunshine and mostly shadows, that's the best place for you. While leading the way, Yi Lingling also followed Qin Ming's instructions and told Lu Haoli all kinds of knowledge about the mimicry training ground. Yi Lingling's voice is very beautiful, and she expresses every word clearly. She doesn't like to talk, but that doesn't mean she can't speak. During the chat, Lu Haoli found that her language organization ability was very strong. She spoke less but focused her sentences. Walking straight along, Yi Lingling told Lu Haoli some knowledge about mimicry practice and then stopped talking. Lu Bao asked her some questions, and she only responded with a nod or no. After walking for a few minutes, Yi Lingling spoke again. "Do you really want to go to the appointment tomorrow?" Although the question was sudden, Lu Haoli still responded. The appointment she was talking about should be the soul battle with Douluo Yan tomorrow. "Do you think I am more powerful or Douluo Yan is more powerful?" Yi Lingling shook his head. "I don't know. But the jade phosphorus snake venom is very domineering." During the team battle, even if we took the anti-venom pill given by Yin Yan, it would be difficult for us to last 10 minutes under the control of her poisonous mist. Tomorrow's soul fighting, Yin Yan will definitely not give you an anti-poison pill, and you will be miserable when faced with the poison of the jade phosphorus snake. "Anti-poison pill?" Lu Bao asked. "What is that?" Yin Yan's anti-poison pill is a poison that is condensed with biphosphorus snake venom. However, this poison is not toxic. Instead, it can enhance the user's body resistance against biphosphorus snake venom. Yi Lingling said, "Whenever fighting when the soul is dead, we will give priority to taking this anti-poison pill, so that we don't have to worry about the green phosphorus snake venom used by Yin Yan accidentally injuring ourselves." Lu Haoli suddenly realized that the so-called anti-venom pill was equivalent to a kind of snake venom serum. Taking the anti-venom pill condensed by Douluo Yan into the stomach is equivalent to injecting snake venom serum into the body, thereby obtaining antibodies against the venom of the phosphorus snake. In this way, one will not be affected by the venom of the phosphorus snake for a short period of time. Douluo Yan's anti-poison pill may be of great help in traveling through the jade phosphorus snake venom array set up by Douluo Bo in the Sunset Forest. By the way, how does Douluo Yan's jade phosphorus snake venom control the enemy? Lu Bao asked. "In the form of poisonous mist?" Yi Lingling nodded. Her 3 soul skills are different poisons. There are poisons that paralyze nerves and poisons that cause excitement and death. The most powerful green phosphorus and purple poison, ordinary soul masters only need to be slightly contaminated with purple mist. There will be a risk of turning into pus and dying. The 3 poisons all control the field in the form of mist, with a wide range and extremely toxic effects. Lu Haoli continued to ask, "Then what should I do to avoid being affected by her by phosphorus snake venom?" "Take the anti-venom pill she gave me." "I can't tell you this," Yilingling said. "Yin Yin already knows your 3 soul skills. In order to make the soul fighting fair, I will tell you Yin Yin's 3 soul skills. As for how to deal with the jade phosphorus snake venom, I can't tell you. Besides, I don't know." "Okay, thank you." Lu Baoyang stopped asking. In addition to the soul master, Yin Yin is also a poison master. Therefore, she not only has soul skills but also the poison skills that her grandfather gave her. Yin Yin can refine the poison produced by the soul skills into mixed poison, thus make the snake venom more powerful. Yilingling finally said, "Okay, I can only help you so far. If Yin Yin doesn't release the water tomorrow, you may die." Lu Hao was not afraid to laugh back. "Not necessarily. Do you think you have a chance of winning?" Yilingling asked curiously. Lu Bao nodded. "Not at first. After listening to your explanation, I have about a 90% winning rate." Yilingling's cold face showed a trace of bitterness. "So if Yin Yin loses tomorrow, it will be all because of my talk." The two came to the back of the dean's building, and what they saw was an open grassland with many flowers of different colors growing on the ground, as well as some shrubs as tall as a person. The breeze gently blew over his face, and Lu Baobo smelled the fragrance of flowers carried in the wind. It was a soothing smell. Many students were sitting cross-legged on the grass meditating, with soul rings and soul power lingering around them. They looked very gorgeous and spectacular. The shadows under Lu Hao's feet became thicker, and he himself felt an unprecedented sense of relaxation. The bright sunshine and countless shadows reflected on the ground could increase the speed of shadow martial arts cultivation. This is the mimicry training ground. Lu Haoli thought that with such an environment to help him practice, geniuses like Yu Tianheng should be able to practice very quickly. However, Yu Tianheng, the most talented person, only had level 38 soul power at the age of 18. On the other hand, the Shrek 7 in the original book all became soul kings above level 50 at the age of 18. Is there a talent gap between the two? No. Lu Bao had read the original work and naturally knew that this was not a talent gap. Yu Tianheng, Douluo Yin, Oslo Yufeng, Graphite Stone Mo, Yilingling were no less talented than the Shrek 7 monsters. The blue electric Tyrannosaurus and the black tortoise. Could it be that the quality and potential of these spirits were not as good as those of Dai Mubai's evil-eyed white tiger and Ma Hongjuan's evil fire phoenix? Compared with the Shrek 7 monsters, the difference between Yu Tianheng and others is not talent, but opportunity. In the original work, the Shrek 7 devils are far more outstanding than other geniuses precisely because of the opportunity Tang San received from the fairy grass. After taking the fairy grass, without exception, they all became geniuses among geniuses. In the end, not only did they become titled Douluo at a young age, they also obtained the inheritance of the divine status. It can be seen that a piece of fairy grass is better than all cultivation resources. Unfortunately, Lu Haoliang is not able to obtain the fairy grass yet. He needs to make too many preparations before entering the Ice and Fire Liangi. All fantasy and reality are deviated. There is a living storage soul guide that can store fairy grass, the threat of soul beasts in the sunset forest, the poison array protection set up by Douluo Bo, and the instability of Douluo Bo hidden danger. In addition, whether the body can withstand the two extreme spiritual energy impacts produced by the ice and fire ice spring. All these factors must be taken into consideration. Without any knowledge of poisons or a physique that is invulnerable to all poisons, trying to swallow the fairy grass from under the nose of a titled Douluo who is famous for poisons is simply as difficult as climbing to the sky. However, no matter how difficult it was, Lu Bao would not give up the idea of swallowing the fairy grass for himself. Faced with the extremely tempting benefits, Lu Bao wanted to monopolize these benefits, and accordingly, others would also have the idea of monopolizing them. Therefore, without any strength and guarantee, he did not dare to conspire with others to obtain fairy grass. I practice in that patch of flowers. You can find a place with many shadows. If you have any questions, You can ask me. After saying that, Yi Lingling walked toward the flowers dozens of meters away in front of her, and soon began to meditate and practice. Lu Haoli put aside all his fantasies about fairy grass and scanned the surrounding grass for a week. He decided to practice on the grass near the dean's building because there were also buildings for the branch campus and the education committee, and there was relatively sufficient light. Coupled with the shadows of plants, it should be able to assist the shadow martial soul training very well. Arriving near the dean's building, a strange scene appeared. The shadow under Lu Bao's feet became more intense, and the shadow seemed darker. This proves that the light energy contained near the dean's building is very large. However, it is afternoon, and the sunlight shining on the earth should not be so strong. Is it because the mimic training field has been artificially developed that the sunlight contains such a large amount of light energy? Looking up at the top of the dean's building, Lu Baohao found that the shadow martial spirit had become obviously more active, as if his own shadow under his feet was about to leave the ground and fly into the sky. This light energy is generated from the top of the dean's building. Is there a place for mimicry training there? Chapter 16, A Room Filled with Light. Is there also a mimicry training place on the top of the dean's building? Lu Baoli turned into a shadow and escaped to the surface while no one was paying attention. I saw a group of black shadows swimming quickly along the wall of the dean's building towards the top. In a few breaths, it had reached the top and transformed back into Lu Baoan's appearance. Standing on the top of the building, the shadow martial soul's induction became stronger. Lu Baolan curiously stared at the black floor he was stepping on. At this moment, he was at the top of the dean's building, and what he was stepping on should be the ceiling of a certain room. The light energy, sensed by the shadow martial spirit, is generated below. Is there a room under the ceiling similar to a mimic training ground? Lu Bao squatted down and tapped a few times with his fingers. He found that the ceiling was very strange. It sounded like the sound of fingers tapping on glass, not a stone wall. There is also a feeling of stepping on a glass bridge under your feet. The black floor is more like a mirror, which can reflect Lu Bao's appearance. This ceiling is actually made of a two-way mirror. Lu Bao was secretly surprised. The ceiling under his feet was indeed not made of stone, but a glass-like material. Two-way mirror, also known as single-sided perspective glass. On Douluo Star, two-way mirrors are widely used. For example, two-way mirrors are installed on cars. People sitting in the car can clearly see the outside situation, but people outside the car cannot see everything inside the car. Lu Baohai looked up at the sun in the sky and thought that the black ceiling made of glass under his feet could not be seen from the outside. But if he looked from the inside, he should be able to see the big sun hanging high in the sky. Driven by curiosity, Lu Bao became interested. He wanted to see why the ceiling of this room had a structure similar to a two-way mirror. This room is airtight, and there are no gaps to pass through. If you want to enter this room, you probably have to go through the front door. Lu Baoyang knew that this was the dean's building, where the dean worked, and no one was allowed to enter without permission. So, you can only sneak in. While thinking about it, Lu Baohai turned into a black shadow and swam down the wall along the wall, then sneaked into the hall of the dean's building through various gaps in the door and wall, and swam silently towards the room. The shadow state can block the detection of mental power. If you want to find Lu Bao who has turned into a shadow, you can only use the naked eye or special means. The people in the dean's building are basically some handyman servants. They are all ordinary people, so naturally they cannot easily discover Lu Bao's whereabouts. Everything went smoothly. Lu Bao came to the room and spent a few minutes finding the door. What makes Lu Badai strange is that this door looks like a wall without a door handle. If it were someone else, he wouldn't be able to tell it was a door at all. Thanks to the fact that it can turn into a shadow and stick to the ground, he can find it. There is an invisible gap between the wall in front of you and the ground. That's why Lu Baoli felt that this wall was a door that would open when touching a certain switch. The builder obviously didn't want others to discover this room. Why is there such a mysterious room in the dean's building? Lu Badai's curiosity became even more intense. He clung to the ground like a shadow and sneaked into the room through the invisible gap. In an instant, his curiosity was completely replaced by shock. After entering the room and returning to his human form, Lu Bao found that it was a room full of light. The temperature in the room was extremely hot as boiling water. The four walls are all silver and airtight, and the ceiling of the room, as expected, is made of a two-way mirror. Previously, the scene inside the room could not be seen from the outside. Now inside the room, everything outside can be clearly seen. Lu Baoli stared at the sun in the sky through the transparent glass ceiling. The shadows under his feet were thicker than ever before, and he himself had never felt more fulfilled. The whole body is full of energy, as if there is a steady stream of power generated in the body. This feeling is caused by the strong sunlight. Shadow is the product of light. The stronger the light, the stronger the shadow. As the owner of the shadow martial spirit, the influence of light on Lu Baoli is crucial. In the darkness without light, his shadow martial spirit can only be illuminated by the weak light emitted by the human body. This state will make the shadow martial spirit become. It is extremely weak and cannot even be used. In places with strong light, it is difficult for any kind of martial spirit to suppress the shadow martial spirit. Lu Baoli was almost certain that the ceiling of this room not only had the effect of a two-way mirror, it must also have the function of enhancing light. Or in other words, it had the function of condensing light. Under the influence of the concentrated light from the ceiling, this room is like a solar oven on Douluo Star. It is filled with light and heat energy, which is why the temperature in the room is so high and the shadow martial spirit is in an active state. The most suitable mimicry field for shadow martial soul training is this kind of place with strong light. The transparent ceiling shouldn't be used for admiring the moon, right? Lu Baoli thought. Such a ceiling structure was obviously intentional. Although he didn't know why the dean's office had such a room, he finally found a suitable room for the shadow. It's a great place for martial arts training. The original work mentioned that the higher the innate soul power, the faster the cultivation speed. When Lu Baoli entered school, he claimed that he had innate 7th-level soul power, but only he knew that it was a fabrication. When he traveled to Douluo continent, Lu Haoli was 18 years old, and his soul power, martial souls, and soul rings were all given by the system. There was no such thing as innate soul power. For him, a person from another world, his innate soul power was actually 0, and cultivating his martial soul and soul power was very slow. After living in Douluo continent for nearly 4 months, Lu Baoli was proficient in the use of martial arts and soul skills, and was also working hard to cultivate his soul power. However, for months later, the thickness of his soul power showed no sign of improvement. I thought about joining Tiando Royal Academy, firstly to get close to Douluo so that he can better plan the Immortal Grass, and secondly, because this academy has rich cultivation resources, which can greatly improve the speed of cultivation. Now that he could find a mimicry resource suitable for training, Lu Baoli was very excited. His first soul skill, shadow locking, was activated. With the ability to lock on the shadow of any object within 100 meters, Lu Baoli found that there was no sign of life nearby. Sit calmly and meditate. Arriving at the center of the room, Lu Haoli sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and concentrated, practicing with the sunlight absorbed and enhanced by the ceiling. The soul power in the body begins to become active, and the soul power breath flowing through the whole body is like a heat flow, nourishing every part of the body. Finally, a steady stream of soul power breath gathers in the dantian, rolling like a heat wave. This was the first time that Lu Haoli felt such a violent reaction from his soul power. It seemed that he was right. This light-filled room was perfect for shadow martial soul training. At this moment, Lu Baoli was practicing at several times the speed. His martial soul and soul power were active at several times the speed, and he continued to absorb the surrounding light energy and became more and more pure. 3 hours later, blue soul power erupted from Lu Baoli's body, forming ripples in all directions. Attack, speed, defense, mental power, soul power, and all physical attributes have been improved. This situation had also occurred during the process of absorbing the soul ring before. Lu Baoli knew that the density of the soul power in the body had become thicker and the soul power level had increased by 1 level. It is now level 36 soul power. The moment his soul power increased, Lu Haoli realized how beneficial light was to the shadow martial soul. He was certain that the light intensity in the room was enough to burn the body of a soul master, even one with the blue, electric Tyrannosaurus Rex martial soul. Yu Tianheng probably wouldn't be able to survive under such strong sunlight for 3 hours. The reason why he is not affected in this room does not mean that his physical strength is far superior to Yu Tianheng's, but because of his shadow martial spirit. What shadows fear most is not light. On the contrary, shadows fear darkness. Without a trace of light, shadows cease to exist. Only when there is light can there be shadow. So, no matter what kind of light, it will only have a positive impact on the shadow and will not cause any negative effects. That's why Lu Hao was not affected by the enhanced sunlight from the ceiling. His body would not suffer any injuries, and he would even be nourished by the light and become stronger. In other words, the shadow martial soul comes with a characteristic, which is that it is immune to all light attribute damage and converts light attribute energy into its own power. If a soul master with light attributes can be found in the future, he might be able to perform martial soul fusion skills that are as powerful as a titled Douluo like the original dragon Duke Meng Shu and Snake Pachao Tianxiang. Another hour later, the thickness of the soul power in the body has not increased as quickly as before. Although under the strong sunlight, the martial soul and soul power are increasing at several times the speed, but the soul power has just been upgraded by 1 level, making the original thickness of the soul power even greater. Oh, if you want to advance to another level, you must obtain more practice points than before. Lu Baoyang ended his meditation, opened his eyes, stood up, and felt the changes in his body after raising his soul power by 1 level. The shadows under his feet were thicker, his physical quality was stronger, and his soul power aura was strong and powerful. It seemed that the shadow martial soul was under strong influence. Under the influence of sunlight, its various attributes have also been improved. Mimicry practice can make the cultivation of soul power faster, and also make the aura of the martial spirit itself purer. From now on, I will come to this light-filled room to practice every day. If I can maintain this practice speed, nothing will happen. If you do, you can reach level 40 soul power within half a year. Lu Baolan couldn't help but sigh. God finally opened his eyes, and letting him encounter this special room was undoubtedly equivalent to an opportunity for cultivation. Chapter 17 Shadow vs. Jade Phosphorus Snake 1. Lu Bao took out a stone the size of a green date from his waist and placed it in a corner of the room. The stone and the wall were tightly fitted together. It would be difficult to spot the existence of the stone without looking carefully. In the sunlight, the shadow of this small stone is reflected on the ground. In the future, he needs to enter this room to practice. He can use the second soul skill Shadow Attack to gain the ability to freely shuttle between shadows. In this way, he can directly come to this room through the shadow of the small stone without having to sneak into the Dean's building every time. Be noticed. The distance limit for free movement between shadows is within 100 meters. Yi Lingling, who was practicing on the edge of the grassland flowers, happened to be within this range. Lu Bao used his first soul skill to lock onto Yi Lingling's shadow, and then used his second soul skill to get out of Yi Lingling's shadow. Emerged and quietly left the light-filled room. At this time, Yi Lingling was still concentrating on her cultivation and didn't even notice Lu Bao emerging from her shadow, nor did she notice that Lu Bao was already standing in front of her. Quietly watching the 9-hearted begonia martial spirit floating above Yi Lingling's head, emitting gentle white light and floral fragrance, Lu Bewley thought to himself that mimicry training resources are indeed very important to the growth of a soul master. No wonder Yu Xiaojiang in the original work would do it for him. The Shrek 7 monsters fought for mimicry training resources and persuaded Flender to abandon Shrek Academy and join Tiando Royal Academy. The current plot line is still 3 years away from the Elite Tournament. Tang San probably hasn't joined Shrek Academy yet, leaving him plenty of time to plan the fairy grass. Tomorrow is the soul battle with Douluo Yin. In the name of the soul battle, we can find the weakness of the Jade Phosphorus Snake Venom, learn more about the anti-poison pill, and then go to the Sunset Forest alone to pass through the poison array set by Douluo Bo. You can also have more confidence. The next day, morning, Tiando Royal Academy, classroom. The afternoon course mainly allows students to enter the mimic field to practice, while the morning course is a theoretical and practical class. For a soul master, it is enough to have basic theoretical knowledge reserves, so the theoretical class does not take up much time, only about an hour in total. Tiando Class 1 is Yu Tianhing's class of 7, and it is also Lu Bao's class. The Tiando Royal Academy will be respected as the #1 advanced soul master academy in the Tiando Empire. In addition to having rich resources for mimicry training, it also has a strong teaching staff. The chief, Meng Xinji, the second by Baoshan, and the third, Jilin, are the 3 education committee members with the highest seniority in the college and are also the teachers with the most teaching experience in the college. At this moment, in the Tiando Class 1 classroom, the theoretical instructor standing on the podium giving lectures to the students was Jilin, the 3rd chair educational committee member of the college. In his class, even the most stubborn aristocratic children did not dare to mess around. There was silence in the audience. The students were all listening attentively. Some students were taking notes on white paper very seriously. Jilin put his hands behind his back, glanced sharply at the students under the podium, and asked aloud, "Who can tell me, as a soul master, what is most important? You can become a soul master only if you have soul power." A student raised his hand to answer. Of course, soul power is the most important. As a soul master, the most important thing is to find the development direction that is most suitable for your martial soul. High-quality soul rings are the most important to a soul master. The most important thing is the soul skills suitable for soul masters. The students in the audience expressed their opinions one after another, and the atmosphere in the classroom was very active. Elbail, what do you think? Jilin's eyes passed over the students who answered the questions one by one, and finally landed on the leftmost seat in the 3rd row, which was Lu Bao's position. Yesterday, in Gao's practical class, Jilin was very satisfied with Lu Bao's performance. He remembered that Lu Bao was an auxiliary soul master and a control soul master with excellent control ability. As long as it was a control soul master, Jilin would pay more attention to it, let alone a being like Lu Baoli, who could support and control at the same time. Jilin took the initiative and asked, "What do you think is most important to a soul master?" "I think what the previous classmate said is correct. Soul power level, martial soul quality, and soul ring quality are all extremely important to a soul master." Lu Bo responded, "If I have to say the most important thing, yes, it depends on the situation. Generally speaking, before level 60, the party with the better soul ring quality will have the advantage. Before level 95, the party with the better martial soul quality will have the advantage. After level 95, the party with the higher soul power level will have the advantage. Of course, if you can achieve all 3, that's the most important thing." "I don't agree with this point of view." A loud voice attracted everyone's attention, including Lu Baoyan and Jilin. Everyone's eyes fell on Douluo, and it was she who disagreed with Lu Baoyan's point of view. "Then what's your opinion?" Jilin thought to himself. Poison Douluo's granddaughter must have some high opinions. Douluo was sitting in front of Lu Baoyan. She did not look back to see Lu Baoyan's expression at this time. She just wanted to express her different opinions. "My point of view is the same as that of the previous classmate. I believe that the most important thing for a soul master is to find a direction that suits his martial soul cultivation. Just now, Lu Bao said that the soul power level, soul ring quality, and martial soul quality are the most important to a soul master. I don't agree. Let me ask, if these 3 conditions are the same, can any soul master defeat the control soul master?" "The answer is no," Douluo said firmly. "The control soul master's attack is very weak, but his control power is extremely strong. An outstanding control soul master can completely control opponents who are within 10 levels of their own soul power. So I think the soul master's training direction is the most important. If the soul master develops towards the control system, he will have more advantages." Vanglala, many students who were developing into the control department took the initiative to applaud Douluo's views. Douluo then looked back at Lu Baoyan and said with a hint of sarcasm, "Moreover, someone clearly entered the academy as an auxiliary soul master, but he still wanted to label himself as a control soul master. It can be seen from this that he also thinks that being a control soul master is very honorable. right? Lu Baolon had a wry smile on his face. He knew that this woman was having sex with him again. The Jilin Education Committee also favors the group that says the Control Soul Master is the strongest. After hearing Dogu Yan's point of view, he was very satisfied and asked Lu Bao, "Do you want to refute?" "Yes." Lu Baoan looked back at Dogu Yan and asked, "Yanzi, according to what you said, do you think the Control-type Soul Master is invincible?" Dogu Yan's eyes were firm. "That's right." "Okay, let me ask you, if you fight Yu Tianheng, can you beat him?" Lu Bao glanced at Yu Tianheng sitting on his right and continued, "You are an excellent control soul. Master, Yu Tianheng is an offensive soul master. If we really fight, I'm afraid you will lose miserably, right?" Dogu Yan also glanced at Yu Tianheng and was stunned for a moment before reluctantly responding. "If we have to fight hard, it's not certain who will win and who will lose." "No." Lu Baoyan definitely looked at Dogu Yan's green eyes. "The outcome is obvious. You will definitely lose miserably. Because Yu Tianheng's blue electric Tyrannosaurus is a top-level martial spirit, the required spirit ring must be the soul ring produced by the Dragon Soul Beast. So the power of the soul skill is extremely domineering and powerful. Your snake venom cannot control him at all. This is the strength gap caused by the quality of the martial soul and the quality of the soul ring." Dogu Yan was speechless for a moment. He was silent for a moment before arguing. "Who told you to use Tianheng as an example? His martial spirit is a top-notch martial spirit. Can we compare with him? If we really want to compare, we should use the same quality. Only in this way can we compare it. If my Jade Phosphorus Snake Wuhuan evolves into the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor like my grandfather did, I will definitely be able to control the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex with poison." "Okay, let me ask you again. Your grandfather Dogu Bo happens to be a titled Douluo of the control system, and Yu Tianheng's grandfather is a titled Douluo of the attack system. If these two seniors fight, who do you think will lose and who will win?" I think this question is not difficult to answer, right? The answer is, of course, that your grandfather will lose. This not only involves the quality of the martial soul, but also the gap in soul power level. Now, do you know the importance of martial soul quality, soul ring quality, and soul power level to a soul master? Let's not talk about the first two. Just talking about the comparison between soul power levels. Your grandfather will not, maybe he can defeat Yu Tianheng's grandfather. "You!" Dogu Yan was speechless, staring straight at Lu Bao with her cold green eyes like poisonous snakes. How could she endure others belittling her grandfather like this? The quarrel between the two became more and more intense, and the topic was no longer about what was most important to a soul master, but about who was more powerful, Dogu Bo or Yu Engine, the two titled Douluo. This made Jilin quite helpless. If one of the titled Douluo is offended, Tiando Royal Academy will be in big trouble. "Okay, stop arguing, both of you. This topic ends here." Jilin Education Committee immediately interrupted the debate between the two. Dogu Yan was thinking about how to respond to Lu Bao, but he was not willing to give up. He glared in the direction of the Jilin Education Committee, pointed his little hand, and cursed, "Shut up first." Suddenly, the whole class was silent. Everyone looked at Dogu Yan blankly, feeling a strange and exciting feeling. Looking at the whole college, the only student who dares to shut up the teacher is Dogu Yan, a tough woman, right? Staring at the Jilin Education Committee, standing on the podium with wide eyes, Dogu Yan finally realized what he had just done. His mind was empty, and he quickly retracted the hand, pointing at Jilin, not daring to say another word. "Then continue," Jilin said with a smile. "Teacher." "Me? I didn't know it was you." Dogu Yan apologized awkwardly. "I'm sorry. I was too rude. I was thinking about how to refute Lu Bao. I didn't want to be interrupted." "Yes, I understand, so I'll let you continue." Jilin stretched out his hand to indicate. When he heard the student shouting to him, "Shut up first," Jilin's first reaction was anger. Extremely angry. He is a teacher, and he stands on the podium to spread knowledge. He was always the one who told the students in the audience to shut up. How had he ever been told to shut up by a student? He is also the Education Committee, one of the three most senior members of the Education Committee, and he is highly respected. If the two old guys Meng Xinji and Bai Baoshan knew that he had been scolded by the students, wouldn't he be laughed at by them for the rest of his life? However, seeing Douluo thinking hard and trying to convince the other party with her own point of view, Jeline was moved by her. Douluo is a stubborn girl and a control genius who is persistent and refuses to admit defeat. Jeline liked this kind of student from the bottom of his heart, and he was definitely not afraid that Douluo would complain to Douluo, "Keep talking." Jeline extended his hand again. "I've finished, it's up to you, teacher, to do the talking." After answering, Douluo immediately lowered her head. Her bad temper instantly calmed down, and she became a bit more docile. Although she was as vicious and vicious as her grandfather, she still knew how to respect her elders. "I already scolded the education committee just now. How dare I say another word?" Out of the corner of his eye, he turned to Lu Haoli, who was sitting behind him. Douluo felt ashamed and angry in his heart. He quickly sketched a villain on the white paper with a pen, then pierced the villain's chest with the tip of the pen, and cursed in a low voice. He said, "You stinking bastard. Let's see how I poison you in the actual combat class later." Chapter 18, Shadow vs. Jade, Phosphorus Snake 2. You stinky bastard. Let's have a practical lesson later and see how I poison you to death. When Douluo uttered this curse, the college bell rang, signaling the end of the theory class. The students left the classroom and gathered on the playground. They will have practical instruction classes later. The students in each class are given instruction by a designated teacher. The actual combat instructor for the Tiendo level class is Qin Ming. The last level, 78 Defensive Spirit Holy Stone Gao, was just the substitute teacher for all classes. Lu Haoli and Douluo made an appointment yesterday to have a spirit fighting competition in today's practical class to see whose control ability is better. Qin Ming also agreed. So the first student to participate in the soul battle in this practical class was Lu Haoli and Douluo, the battle between the Shadow Martial Spirit and the Green Phosphorus Snake Martial Spirit. On the soul fighting stage, Lu Haoli and Douluo faced each other face to face, with fighting intent in each other's eyes, and they were already ready to start fighting souls at any time. Due to the conflict that occurred in the theory class just now, the two of them already had a very strong smell of gunpowder without having to say anything harsh. Douluo said viciously, "Lu Haoli, you are dead." "Really? You couldn't beat me in the theoretical class. Do you think you can beat me in the practical class?" While responding to Douluo's provocation, Lu Haoli was handling his own affairs, and he carried a large bag of small stones in his hand. "Throw it all into the sky." Countless fist-sized stones were scattered in every corner of the soul fighting platform. Under the fierce sunlight, the shadows of countless stones were reflected on the floor of the soul fighting platform. "I gave you a theoretical lesson in the morning. Now, I will give you a practical lesson to show you what is most important to a soul master." After saying that, Lu Haoli's 3 soul rings unfolded one after another, and the soul power aura exploded out of his body. The strong energy washed over everyone's faces. Qin Ming, Yu Qianheng, and others were secretly surprised by this soul power aura. He was obviously more vigorous than before. It seemed that Lu Haoli's soul power had improved. Douluo also felt something was wrong in the soul power aura released by Lu Haoli, and her pretty face with a hint of anger suddenly became solemn. "When did your soul power increase?" "Yesterday afternoon when I was practicing in the mimicry field, I just happened to increase my soul power by 1 level. It's now level 36. Lu Haoli raised his eyebrows, raised his right fist, and said with a smile, "I don't think you should have lunch at noon. Now I will let you eat your fist until you are full." Douluo snorted disdainfully. "It's just an increase in soul power. What are you so proud of?" His eyes glanced at the small stones scattered on the floor of the soul fighting stage, and he continued, "Bao, no matter what you do by scattering these stones on the stage, you can't escape the fate of being tortured by the venom of the jade phosphorus snake. Come on, just cry and beg me to detoxify you. Stop talking nonsense. Are you coming or not?" A cold light flashed in Lu Haoli's eyes. The 3 yellow, and purple soul rings under his feet were spinning violently, and the soul power aura exploding in his body became more intense, dyeing the surrounding area light blue. Douluo stopped talking nonsense and released her martial soul and soul ring. A green snake martial soul escaped from the ground, coiled up from her feet, and covered the area several meters in radius with a green aura. The same 3 soul rings of yellow, and purple were beating on Douluo Yan's body. At the same moment when the martial soul was released, Douluo Yan was possessed by the martial soul. His body became extremely soft, and his legs fused together to form a thick green snake tail. A pair of the green eyes became extraordinarily sharp, and the cold aura contained no human emotion at all, and was as terrifying as a monster snake spirit. Lu Haoli discovered that after Douluo Yan's martial spirit possessed her, her hair and eyes became darker in color. Her hair turned into dark purple, and her eyes were also dark green. The original book said that Douluo Yan's purple hair was caused by the backlash of phosphorus snake venom. Therefore, in the state of being possessed by the phosphorus snake martial spirit, the backlash of phosphorus snake venom to Douluo Yan should be more serious than normal. However, her dark purple neck-length short hair and sharp blue eyes made her look heroic. She couldn't be said to be stunning, but she had a coquettish charm. With such a snake beauty, it's no wonder that even Yu Tianheng, who has seen countless women, covets her. He has a bold personality and wants to try everything, giving him a charming feeling. Coupled with such a charming face, a body as soft as a snake, and a charming voice, if you find such a beauty, you will definitely be completely satisfied in bed. Her coquettish moans when she was conquered, and her lazy and seductive posture with disheveled hair after being conquered, must make people feel comfortable to the core. Lu Haoli, are you coming or not? This time it was Douluo Yan who asked. Seeing Lu Haoli in a daze, she wished she could poison him to death with green phosphorus and purple poison, but this was a soul fighting competition, and she couldn't kill him. She didn't like taking advantage of others in a fair competition, so there was no point in winning like this. Disgraceful. Lu Haoli put away his ill will towards Douluo Yan and reminded him, Yanzi, haven't you noticed yet? From the moment my soul ring lit up, your shadow was locked by me. I'm waiting for someone to take action. Opportunity. What are you waiting for? Waiting to die? You are just waiting to die. Just wait for me to collect your body. After cursing, the second of the 3 soul rings on Douluo Yan's snake tail suddenly flashed, and the second soul ring skill, Jade Phosphorus Red Poison, was used. With Lu Haoli as the center, the air in a 10-meter radius gradually became turbid and continuously produced a color-changing reaction. First, it turned colorless into light red, and finally formed a large-scale red poisonous mist that completely engulfed him. Seeing himself trapped in the red mist, Lu Haoli was not afraid to smile. Yesterday, Yi Lingling had told him the effects of Douluo Yan's 3 soul skills. This red poisonous mist should be Douluo Yan's 2nd soul skill by Lin Hong. Poison. This is a soul ring skill obtained by hunting a soul beast called Pink Lady. The red mist produced by the green phosphorus red poison is not a deadly toxin mixed directly into the mist, but a highly effective excitatory pheromone. After ordinary soul masters or creatures absorb these pheromones, they will have a strong sense of excitement. This feeling will increase as the amount of red mist inhaled increases. Excessive excitement will lead to the danger of losing one's mind. When the excitement reaches a certain level, the vitality will be overdrawn until death. Yi Lingling said that if Jiuxin Haidang is a way to restore physical strength and calm people down, then Douluo Yan's Bailan Red Poison is a move that makes people extremely excited and consumes physical strength. The two are opposite to each other. Lu Haoli thought that Douluo Yan's priority in using green phosphorus and red poison to cause control was probably to put the enemy in an extremely excited state. After the enemy loses the ability to judge calmly, the outcome will be determined. Unfortunately, Lu Hao had already known the effects of her soul skills, so he was certainly prepared. The countless small stones sprinkled on the spirit fighting stage before the spirit fighting begins are the means to deal with the control of the jade phosphorus snake venom. At this moment, there are small stones in every corner of the soul fighting platform. Under the strong sunlight, these stones will produce shadows. Lu Haoli can use the 2nd soul skill shadow attack to gain the ability to shuttle between shadows, thereby realizing the shadow of each stone. Positioned to perform a space jump, the range covered by the red poisonous mist is only 10 meters. As long as he locks on the shadow of a stone 10 meters away, Lu Haoli can appear from the shadow of that stone, escape from the control of the poisonous mist without anyone noticing, and launch an attack on Douluo Yan. Shadow attack. The second soul ring flashed, and Lu Haoli slipped into his own shadow and emerged from the shadow of a stone outside the red poisonous mist. He did not change back to his human form, but maintained his shadow state and overlapped with the shadow of the stone. At this moment, Lu Haoli was hiding under the shadow of the stone, concentrating on locking Douluo's shadow. What surprised Lu Haoli was that his first soul skill couldn't lock on Douluo's shadow. What was going on? After pondering for a moment, Lu Haoli figured out that Douluo was hiding in the red poisonous mist. The shadow area formed by the poisonous mist covered her shadow. Therefore, her shadow was not produced under Douluo's feet. Where she was, the shadow has been minimized and is infinitely close to the state of no shadow. Faced with this state where the shadow was infinitely close to nothing, Lu Haoli's first soul skill, shadow locking, had no effect, and even his second and third soul skills could not have any impact on Douluo. As a control soul master, Douluo's combat qualities are still extremely good. She has personally experienced Lu Haoli's soul skill assistance, so how could she not think of a way to deal with it? Hide your own shadow and keep your shadow in an extremely weak state. In this way, Lu Haoli's shadow martial spirit cannot easily lock on your shadow. This is Douluo's way of coping, and it seems to be exactly as she expected. Lu Haoli, are you panicking, right? Douluo's voice came from the red poisonous mist. You can't lock my shadow, your second and third soul skills are just decorations. And you have become a person without fighting. A useless person with no ability. Now if you surrender to me, you will suffer less physical pain. Otherwise, your life will be worse than death. Chapter 19 Shadow vs. Jade Phosphorus Snake 3 Lu Haoli, if you surrender to me now, you will suffer less physical pain. Otherwise, you will experience life worse than death under my phosphorus poison. Douluo threatened in the red poisonous mist. Lu Haoli hid under the shadow of the stone in his shadow state and replied calmly, Yinzi, don't worry yet. I said, in this practical lesson, I will tell you what is most important to a soul master. The quality of martial souls, the quality of soul rings, the level of soul power, and the direction of a soul master's development are not the most important. The most important thing for a soul master is to have excellent ability to respond to situations. In this regard, you are not as good as me. This is why you will lose to me. Lost to you. A contemptuous sneer came from the red poisonous mist. Now you are forced to do nothing. I only need to use the green phosphorus and purple poison again, and the two poisonous mists mix together to form a wider range of control, and lose it to you. Don't think I don't know. The purpose of you scattering so many stones on the soul fighting platform is to use the shadow of the stones to avoid the control of my biphosphorus poison. I am very responsible to tell you that I not only have 3 soul skills, but also I have the poison skill that my grandpa gave me. I can mix different poisons produced by 3 soul skills to form a stronger mixed poison. When the mixed poison covers the entire soul fighting platform, the stones you laid will be useless. My biphosphorus poison will poison you wherever you hide. If you didn't know the details about Douluo, Lu Haoli would definitely be very nervous after hearing these words. However, yesterday Yi Lingling had already told Lu Haoli that Douluo had learned poisonous skills from her grandfather. So in Lu Haoli's view, the mixed poison Douluo said did not scare him. In fact, as long as you use Realgar with wine and fire like the original Tang San, you can break Douluo's poisonous mist control. Unfortunately, Lu Haoli didn't know where to find Realgar. Furthermore, Realgar was poisonous and he didn't understand poison at the moment. Using Realgar or other poisonous substances rashly would not only fail to break Douluo's poisonous mist, but would even make him poisoned and make him laugh. So Tang San's method didn't apply to Lu Haoli. However, Tang San had the knowledge he brought from the Tang sect, and Lu Haoli also had his own unique knowledge reserve. Although it was impossible to completely clear the poisonous mist on the soul fighting stage, Lu Haoli already had a countermeasure in his mind. The countless stones scattered on the floor of the soul fighting platform are the solution to the control of Douluo's poisonous mist. Yi Lingling said yesterday that Douluo's poison was controlled in the form of poisonous mist. Now seeing is believing. It is indeed true. Whether it is smoke or water mist, both are fluid. The poisonous mist released by the jade phosphorus snake is biased toward smoke and is composed of a large number of extremely fine toxic particles. Within the scope covered by poisonous fog, toxic particles in the fog will flow, which means that the toxicity at the same location will change with the flow of toxic particles. Areas with more toxic particles will be more toxic, and vice versa. Then weak. Lu Bai's soul power cannot resist the erosion of the stronger jade phosphorus snake venom. But if it is a weaker snake venom, he can still use his soul power to enhance the body's anti-venom ability, force out the snake venom that invades the body, or wrap it with soul power prevent snake venom from touching your body. Therefore, for him, as long as he appears in an area with weaker snake venom every time, he does not have to worry about being persecuted by the poisonous mist. How to make it appear in the area where the snake venom is weak every time. The countless stone shadows all over the soul fighting platform are springboards. Lu Baoyan could use the shadow of each stone to move his position, each time moving to a less toxic place. In this way, even if Douluo really mixed the three poisons to form a large-scale poisonous mist that enveloped the entire soul fighting platform, don't be afraid either. Moreover, by shifting the position within the poisonous mist, one can also find the location of Douluo. Once Douluo appears in the field of vision, the winner of this spirit battle will also be determined. Adhering to this fighting idea, Lu Baohai had already begun to take action. The second soul skill shadow attack was launched. He emerged from the shadow of a stone in the red poisonous mist. He found that there were more poisonous particles here, so he instantly jumped to the shadow of another stone. Position. Finally, he found a less poisonous area. In front of him, a figure was reflected in the hazy, poisonous mist. That was Douluo. The second soul skill, Shadow Attack, was launched again. Lu Haoli quietly came to the position of the stone shadow behind Douluo and suddenly hit the back of Douluo's head with his fist with a 50% attack increase. Suddenly feeling a chill on his back, Douluo reacted immediately and drove his snake tail to swim quickly. He first distanced himself, then aimed at Lu Bao's position to increase the toxicity contained in the poisonous mist. Lu Baoyan dodged and exchanged positions with a certain stone shadow, thus escaping Douluo's counterattack. The attack just now did not hit Douluo, but it made her panic. How could she have imagined that Lu Baoyan could quietly approach her in this red poisonous mist and still be immune to the poison? How did he do that? With a thought, the third soul ring on Douluo's body lit up, and the purple soul ring flashed with dazzling light. The red poisonous mist covering a 10-meter range suddenly expanded outwards, submerging half of the soul fighting platform, and the red poisonous mist shone brightly. Purple color gradually appeared in the fog. Seeing the spreading purple aura in the red mist, Qin Ming was immediately shocked. No, it's green phosphorus and purple poison. Yin Yin is serious. Teacher, why don't we stop this spirit fight quickly? Jade phosphorus and purple poison are the team's trump card. Even the captain's blue, electric Tyrannosaurus must be dealt with carefully. Oslo said in a panic. If we miss, Lu Baol will, but it will turn into pus in an instant. Qin Ming stared nervously at the poisonous mist that had completely turned purple while still on the soul fighting stage. He also wanted to stop this soul fighting, but would this affect the outcome of the battle? What if Lu Bao had a way to deal with the green phosphorus and purple poison? Qin Ming did not call for a pause in the fighting spirit. If there was real danger, he would take action in time, instantly bursting out the flames of the fired Songlong spirit to burn out the poisonous mist and let Douluo detoxify Lu Bao. After noticing that the poisonous mist around him turned purple, Lu Haoli also became nervous. He was not afraid, but he had finally waited for the green phosphorus and purple poison to appear. In addition to competing with Douluo, this spirit battle is also about finding a way to crack the venom of the green phosphorus snake. Jade phosphorus purple poison is the most powerful toxin in the jade phosphorus snake martial spirit. If he can survive the jade phosphorus purple poison, it means that Lu Bao can try to pass through the poison array set by Douluo in the Sunset Forest. The method to deal with the green phosphorus and purple poison is still the same as before. Use the shadow of the stone to move to an area with less poison, and then wait for an opportunity to get close to Douluo. Lu Bao, if you don't admit defeat, I won't care about the consequences. The second and third soul rings under Douluo Yan's feet are still shining. She pushes forward with both hands and is concentrating her soul power to mix the green phosphorus red poison and the green phosphorus purple poison. Once the two different toxins are mixed, the poisonous fog will envelope them. The entire soul fighting platform and the exciting poison of biphosphorus red poison will enhance the corrosive poison of biphosphorus purple poison. At that time, even a level 40 soul sect will find it difficult to survive under the mixed poison. Lu Haoli's voice suddenly sounded in the merging poisonous mist. Yinzi, you hide your shadow in the shadow of the poisonous mist. This method is very clever, but you ignored one thing. Where there is light, there will be create a shadow. The three shining soul rings on your body betray you. Look at your feet. Douluo Yin looked at his feet and found that under the light of the soul ring, his shadow was clearly reflected on the ground. This scene had to make Douluo Yin nervous, because the light of her soul ring had appeared for so long, which meant that her shadow had also been exposed for so long. Lu Bao must have had some intentions when he did not appear from his shadow and launch a surprise attack. Douluo Yin immediately retracted her soul ring. The light of the soul ring disappeared, and the shadow under her feet also disappeared. The snake's tail suddenly drove and swam quickly to another location in the poisonous mist. Just a few meters away from the original place, Douluo Yin was stunned. Her snake tail was swinging with all her strength, but she could not move, as if it was tightly attached to the ground and could not move. She had seen this situation before in Gao's practical class. At that time, Gao's shadow was controlled by Lu Haoli and could not move his body. Could it be? Douluo Yin subconsciously looked at his feet, and his shadow that had just disappeared appeared again inexplicably. How is this possible? I have obviously taken back the soul ring. There should be no light to form a shadow. Douluo Yin really couldn't figure out the situation. She tried to release all her soul power to get rid of the shadow fixation, but it seemed that she was unable to do so, because large-scale poison control requires extremely huge soul power. Douluo Yin's soul power consumption is far greater than that of Lu Haoli, who frequently uses shadow jumps and swaps positions. Moreover, Lu Haoli now has a soul power of level 36, which is only one level behind Douluo Yin. With only level 37 soul power, Douluo Yin still couldn't break free from Lu Haoli's shadow. You lose. When these words rang out, Douluo Yin clearly saw Lu Haoli appearing in front of him. The three soul rings under his feet were shining with intense light. It turns out that the sudden appearance of his shadow was not caused by the light of his own soul ring, but by the light of Lu Haoli's soul ring. Lu Haoli repeated what he had just said. You see, the most important thing for a soul master is to have excellent ability to adapt to situations. In this aspect, you are not as good as me, and that's why you will lose to me. Chapter 20 Shadow vs. Jade Phosphorus Snake 4. The most important thing for a control-type soul master is to have excellent on-the-spot adaptability. In this aspect, you are not as good as me, and that's why you will lose to me. Hearing this, Douluo Yin gritted his teeth with hatred. I haven't lost yet. You lost, and it was a disastrous defeat. Lu Haoli said sternly with a cold light in his eyes. Don't you understand yet? You have maintained a large-scale poison control for so long, and you have spent your soul power to mix the two poisons into a stronger one. The poison came to attack me. Now the soul power in your body has obviously weakened, and the poisonous mist released by such a weak soul power cannot affect me at all. You know, our soul power is only one level apart. Shut up. Douluo Yin didn't have the temperament to listen to others preaching. He shouted and tried his best to break free from the shadow. To Lu Haoli's surprise, she broke away, not by violence, but by using her mind to gather the surrounding purple poisonous mist in front to form an opaque barrier, blocking the light of Lu Haoli's soul ring. When the light disappears, the shadow under Douluo Yin's feet also disappears, and naturally, he is no longer affected by the shadow fixation. After regaining his freedom, Douluo Yin disappeared into the mixed poisonous mist that had been fused. Only a confident voice echoed. The green phosphorus red poison and the green phosphorus purple poison have formed a mixed poison. I don't need to use soul skills anymore. There will be no soul ring light. Let's see how you can lock my shadow this time. Lu Haoli, You can't use the same method to control me again. You are the loser in this battle of souls. If you don't admit defeat, just let the green phosphorus, red, and purple poison turn into pus. After saying that, Douluo, who was hiding somewhere in the poisonous mist, smiled. At this moment, her soul power was indeed very low, as Lu Haoli said. However, she no longer needed to consume soul power. She only needed to wait quietly. In 1 minute, the mixed phosphorus, red and purple poison would corrode Lu Haoli's whole body, making him worse than death. However, what Douluo didn't know was that Lu Haoli had been moving back and forth in the less toxic area. Unless his soul power was exhausted, the poison in the poisonous mist could not harm him at all. Soul power consumption, in game terms, is also called mana consumption. When playing games, Lu Haoli would always pay attention to the mana consumption of the hero character he controlled. Therefore, the moment he became a soul master, he was very sensitive to the consumption of soul power. Control-type soul masters must first learn to control themselves before controlling others. When it comes to controlling soul power, Lu Haoli has absolute confidence. He believes that he can create the best control effect with the least consumption of soul power. Lu Haoli was sure that he would beat Douluo precisely because Douluo was not very proficient in soul power control. The advantage of range control soul skills was that they could cause group control on the enemy, and the control effect was the same. The disadvantage is also obvious, that is, it consumes too much soul power. There are no distraction control skills like the 7 Treasures Glaze Sect to reduce soul power consumption, so the range control soul skills are definitely a double-edged sword. About a minute later, Douluo's voice rang out in the poisonous fog. Lu Haoli, are you dead? For a moment, no one responded. Just when the red-purple poisonous mist covering the entire soul fighting platform was about to be lifted, Douluo's body was unable to move again. In addition to the purple and red mist, there was also yellow around her, which was the light of a century-old soul ring. Douluo clearly saw that his shadow appeared again, which was caused by the light of the soul ring on Lu Haoli's body. Moreover, the shadow was in front, which meant that the light of the soul ring was released from behind, and Lu Haoli was behind him. Douluo tried to use the same method to gather the red-purple poisonous mist behind to form an opaque barrier, so as to block the light of Lu Haoli's soul ring. Without the light shining on him, his own shadow would not appear, and he could get rid of the shadow fixation. Body. Unfortunately, Lu Haoli suddenly appeared in front of her from behind Douluo, and her shadow was affected by the light of the soul ring and appeared behind her. Helpless, Douluo had no choice but to change direction and use his mind to condense the surrounding poisonous mist into an opaque barrier in front to resist the light of the soul ring. At this time, Lu Haoli switched the positions of the stone shadow to the left side of Douluo, and then to the right side, constantly appearing and disappearing around Douluo, and Douluo's shadow also appeared one after another with the light of the soul ring. In all directions, Douluo gave up. She felt that Lu Haoli was playing tricks on her. He frequently condensed the poisonous mist, which completely consumed the remaining soul power in his body. The poisonous mist that enveloped the entire soul fighting stage gradually dissipated. The figures of Lu Haoli and Douluo were clearly exposed in the field of vision of Yu and others. Looking at Douluo, whose shadow was frozen on the soul fighting stage, Osluo's face was full of disbelief. Is this Lu Haoli's victory? Yu Qianheng also had an expression of disbelief. Yin Yan's green phosphorus and purple poison is already quite overbearing, let alone the mixed poison. How did Lu Haoli manage to remain unharmed under Yin Yan's mixed poison? Oslo noticed that Lu Haoli was gearing up and walking towards Douluo's position, so he hurriedly shouted, "Sister Yinzi, admit defeat quickly, otherwise, that guy Lu Haoli will treat you to a fistfight. He is not what a compassionate person." Leopard, shut up. Douluo glanced at Oslo from the corner of his eye and said firmly, "I will never give up." Lu Haoli came to Douluo and stared at him quietly. At this time, Douluo was still in the state of being frozen in the shadow, unable to move his body. He could only stare at Lu Haoli, angry, and wanted to punch him in the face. A good punch. Yinzi, you are like me, refusing to give up even to the death. In this case, I can only knock you out and make you unconscious. However, my Shadow Martial Spirit currently does not have a powerful attack method, so I will use my fists and kicks to knock you out. As you said, the attack power of the Control Soul Master is very weak, so it will take some time to knock you out. Don't worry, I will try my best to knock you unconscious as soon as possible. It will also save you some physical pain. After saying that, Lu Baoyan kicked Douluo to the ground, stepped on her snake's tail, raised his fist, and smashed it down hard. Bang bang, boom boom. All the sound of collision, the subtle noise of fists scraping the air, and Douluo's screams echoed one after another on the soul fighting stage. The nine-hearted begonia martial spirit slowly rose into the sky, and with a faint fragrance released, a white light fell from the sky, and the white light turned into petals and fell on Douluo. In a few seconds, Douluo, who was beaten unconscious by Lu Bao, recovered from his injuries and fully recovered his physical strength. LV Bao, you stinky bastard. My grandfather never beat me like this. Suddenly, roars rang out from the audience of the playground's soul fighting audience. Douluo stared at Lu Baoyan, full of unwillingness and resentment, as if he was about to eat the man alive like a python. Lu Baoyan pushed away Douluo's extremely angry face, which was close at hand, and said helplessly, "You refuse to admit defeat until you die. What can I do? I can only knock you out and end the battle." Douluo gritted his teeth in anger. "Can't you just throw me off the stage?" Lu Baoyang's eyes lit up. "Yes. Why didn't I think of that? Lu Haoli, how come you know so much about Yin Yan's soul skills?" Yu Qianheng asked doubtfully. "If you don't have the physique to resist toxins, it proves that you have completely predicted Yin Yan's poison control. That's why you can do it in by it's unaffected by phosphorus poison. Am I right?" Before Lu Bao could reply, Yi Lingling on the side started to explain. "Well, Yin Yan already knows Lu Bao's 3 soul skills. In order to give them more fairness in the soul fighting, when I went to the mimic field to practice yesterday, I also told Lu Bao about Yin Yan's 3 soul skills." After listening, Douluo couldn't believe his ears and stared at Yi Lingling in surprise. "Lingling, you idiot. You usually don't like to talk. Why do you talk so much in front of that stinky bastard?" "Sorry." Yi Lingling lowered her head guiltily. "Because Lu Bao helped me with psychological counseling before, and I also want to help him, so you betrayed your good sister?" Douluo still couldn't believe that it was her best friend who betrayed her, and complained to Yi Lingling, "When Lu Baojun joined our team, I absolutely supported you, and even wanted to take your place. You teach him a lesson. Half of the reason for today's spirit fight is also because of you." "I'm sorry." Yi Lingling couldn't think of any better words to express her apology. "Okay, let's stop making trouble." Qin Ming relieved Yi Lingling, looked at Douluo and said, "Yinzi, this defeat may not be a bad thing for you. Just accept the defeat and learn from this lesson, to make up for your shortcomings." "No, I don't accept it. He hit me, and I have to hit him back." Douluo glared at Lu Baoyan again. "Come, let's fight again." Lu Baoxiao shook his head. "I'm no longer interested in you." Douluo said forcefully. "I don't care if you are interested or not. I will fight you." "Okay then." Lu Bao was silent for a while and said seriously, "I can fight you again. But I have a condition." Chapter 21 Shadow vs. Jade Phosphorus Snake 5. "I can fight you again, but I have a condition." "What conditions?" Douluo asked. Lu Baoyan smiled. "If you lose again, then you must give me the same treasure I want." "What treasure?" Douluo asked again. "I haven't thought about it yet. Anyway, I want to find a treasure from your grandfather to give to me." Lu Baoyan thought to himself that if he really didn't have the money to buy a living creature storage soul guide that could store fairy grass, he could only rely on Douluo. Through his relationship, he obtained Douluo's storage soul tool called Rui Baobei. Douluo didn't care what crooked ideas Lu Bao had in mind. She just wanted to win back. So she immediately said, "I promise you. Come now, let's go on stage and have another fight. You guys can fight again tomorrow." Qin Ming suddenly said, "Yinzi, the spirit of fighting in the actual combat class is not to fight who is stronger or weaker, but to discover your own shortcomings and make changes. Today you should think carefully about why you lost. If you think about it and fight another spirit battle tomorrow, You will definitely gain something. After hearing Qin Ming's words, Yin calmed down and turned around to sit down and rest in a deserted place. Yu Tianhing ran to comfort her. Osluo and Yu Feng walked up to the soul fighting stage and started fighting souls. Sure Mo, Qin Ming, and other students were watching the battle in the audience. Lu Baobao and Yi Lingling went to prepare for the next actual battle of souls. The actual battle between the auxiliary departments must have another partner to join, and Lu Baobao was Yi Lingling's partner. The college bell rang, the practical class was over, and it was time for lunch and lunch break. The students left the playground and walked towards the dining hall. Lu Baolon and Yu Tianhing were walking together. On the way to the dining hall, everyone was also reviewing the knowledge learned in the theoretical class and practical class. Lu Baoli, I still don't understand. How did you manage to survive Yinyan's Bailan red poison without any harm? Yu Tianhing looked at Lu Baoli and asked, can you predict the control of Bailan red poison? However, the mixed green phosphorus, red, and purple poison almost enveloped the entire soul fighting stage. How do you avoid it? Oslo had a flash of idea. You didn't secretly use your shadow to move outside the soul fighting platform, right? This is a violation. Lu Baolon glanced at Yin, who was walking on Yu Tianhing's left, and said with a smile, Yinzi, do you want to know how I did it? I don't want to. Yin replied angrily. Just wait. You beat me so much today, I will pay you back 100 times tomorrow. Just when Yin finished speaking, an old voice suddenly sounded from behind everyone. Yin. Turning around and looking, the person who came was an old man with dark green hair. He looked to be in his 70s or 80s, but his dark green eyes were full of energy, revealing not only coldness, but also cold evil. The first time he saw the old man, Lu Baoli's body trembled violently. Just looking at the old man, his body seemed to be forcibly injected with an electric current. This electric current paralyzed the whole body, making it impossible for the body to easily move. Even through activities, the soul power cannot be raised. This feeling is like one's own shadow being frozen and one's soul power blocked. What can produce this oppressive effect is not only the aura pressure brought by the martial souls, but also the gap between the soul power levels. Lu Hao was almost certain that this dark, green-haired old man was definitely a soul master, far more powerful than the three teachers. Does Tiando Royal Academy still have such a character? Grandpa. After shouting in surprise, Yin rushed towards the dark, green-haired old man. When the dark, green-haired old man saw Yin, the cold expression on his face suddenly softened. He stretched out his hand to hug her into his arms and laughed. Yin, not bad. It seems that my worries are unnecessary. Your strength, there has been some progress again. Seeing this scene, Lu Baoli finally figured out that the old man with dark green hair was Yan's grandfather, Bo. No wonder he had such a terrifying suppressive aura. After clearing up the doubts in his mind, Lu Baoli became nervous because he had beaten Yin during the soul fighting class. If Yin told Bo about this, wouldn't it be over? It is obviously too early to meet Bo now. He has not prepared anything. He does not understand drugs, has no talent, has no backing, and has no strength. His relationship with Yin is not particularly good. There is nothing at all. Have the confidence to confront Bo, Grandpa. Why are you here? Yin was completely different from before. In front of Grandpa, she seemed to have changed from a resolute person to a coquettish character. Bo laughed. Of course I miss Yin. I'll give you another chance. Yin glared at Bo and shouted, Tell me, why did you come to the academy? Bo smiled weakly. I said, Prince Shueshing asked me to handle something. As soon as I finished handling the matter, I wanted to visit my good granddaughter to see if you have neglected your cultivation. Grandpa, I'm not a child. Of course I won't neglect my practice. Yin frowned and said with an aggrieved look, I'm not only practicing martial arts, I'm also reviewing the poison skills you taught me. How can you doubt it? I'm lazy. Lu Baoyin watched the chat between the grandfather and granddaughter with fear. He was secretly relieved until they finished talking. It seemed that Yin was not too cautious to complain to her grandfather about everything. Since he is a nobody, he doesn't have to worry that Bo will notice his existence. After reminiscing with his granddaughter, Douluo left, ignoring Yu Tianheng and others, let alone Lu Bao. Sister Yanzi, your grandpa's aura is still so terrifying. Seeing Douluo's figure disappear completely, Oslo's body softened. He exhaled a long breath and said nervously, in front of him, I feel like being beaten by Lu. It's like a bad shadow fixation. It's so painful. That's senior poison Douluo. We can't stand facing teacher Shigao's aura, let alone titled Douluo. Yu Feng's ugly face gradually improved, which is why he didn't dare to date Douluo. Reason: Yu Tianheng was not suppressed too much by Douluo's aura. After all, the top blue electric Tyrannosaurus spirit was right there. Although there was a big gap in spirit power levels, Douluo could still do it if he didn't mean to put pressure on him. To take it lightly, Lu Baoyan, are you scared? Douluo noticed that Lu Baoyan's face was ugly and his fingers were shaking unintentionally. So he teased, are you afraid that I will sue my grandpa or that my grandpa will beat you? Lu Hao had a bitter look on his face and didn't reply. He was hit hard in his heart. The first time he stood with a titled Douluo, it was also the first time that Lu Baoli could see clearly what reality was. The reality is that with the current 36th level of soul power, no backing, and no knowledge about poison, you must not provoke the poison Douluo who dominates the world. You can survive under Douluo's green phosphorus and purple poison. But if you are arrogant enough to challenge poison Douluo's poison, you will definitely die without a burial place. The reality is that the plan to monopolize the fairy grass may be ruined. It is absolutely impossible to take away the fairy grass under Douluo's nose with his own strength. Just by looking at Douluo, his soul power and body were blocked. Unable to move, he could only let himself be slaughtered. If Douluo wanted to kill Lu Bao, it would be as easy as squeezing an ant to death. The reality is that Lu Hao thinks everything is too simple, and all his previous fantasies are just daydreams. However, Lu Badan is not a person who gives in. Only by knowing the gap between fantasy and reality can he better turn fantasy into reality. If you really can't swallow the fairy grass by yourself, you can only use the power of others to obtain the fairy grass and share it with others. Spirit Hall, 7 Treasures Glaze Sect, Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, or the Heaven Do Empire. Lu Baoli thought that instead of colluding with these forces, it would be better to share the opportunity of celestial grass with Douluo and Douluo's grandson and granddaughter in front of him. The premise is that Douluo must be on his side. Lu Baoyan, you're not really scared to death, are you? Seeing Lu Baoyan's eyes fixed on her, Douluo felt a little uncomfortable and explained, don't worry, I didn't tell you about you beating me. Grandpa, I will beat you back with my own hands. Lu Baohao put aside all the worries in his heart, glanced at Yu Tianheng and others and smiled lightly. You guys go to eat. I'm not hungry. I want to practice in the mimicry field for a while. The mimic field is not allowed to be used at noon. Yu Tianheng reminded, the balance of work and rest is the purpose of the academy. The noon break is very important for soul masters because if they want to concentrate on their cultivation, they must maintain sufficient energy and physical strength. It's okay. I'm very energetic. If the mimic field doesn't open, I will practice elsewhere. After saying that, Lu Baoai walked towards the stone steps. He wanted to go to the light-filled room in the dean's building to practice mimicry and improve his strength quickly. With strength, he will not be confused. With strength, he can live in the way he likes. Did that guy take the wrong medicine? Oslo looked confused. Why are you so desperate all of a sudden? Watching Lu Baolan's back walking toward the top of the mountain, Yu Tianheng felt inexplicably impetuous. He was not only a genius from the Tiando Royal Academy, but also a genius from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect. What geniuses fear most is to be surpassed by mortals. Now that Lu Bao was cultivating so diligently, how could he dare to neglect it? If Lu Baoyan can beat Douluo today, he might be able to beat himself tomorrow. Thinking of this, Yu Tianheng was still in the mood to eat. You go and eat. I'm not hungry either. After saying that, Yu Tianheng also walked towards the top of the mountain. Isn't it? Why is the captain crazy? Oslo was even more confused. I'm not hungry either. As soon as Shurimo finished speaking, his stomach growled. Shurimo touched his already hungry belly and looked at Shurimo. Brother, I'm not hungry either. Since everyone is not hungry, let's continue practicing. Yi Lingling said, if you don't have enough energy, I will still be here. Let's go to the top of the mountain to practice. We are a team. If Lu Hao doesn't eat, we won't eat either. As long as one person is still practicing, the rest of us cannot fall behind. As soon as Yu Feng's voice fell, Osluo was the first to run towards the top of the mountain. He had been beaten violently by Lu Haoli before, and he was still thinking about revenge. How could he be willing to be widened by Lu Haoli in terms of strength? Chapter 22 Zuking River Tiendo Royal Academy, top of the mountain. A soul master's training must be in good condition. Otherwise, big problems may arise if he is not careful. Therefore, during the noon period, the entire academy's mimicry training ground will be closed to allow students to have sufficient time to rest. It is rare for students to use their rest time to practice, except for Lu Bao and the 7 Yu Tianheng who just climbed to the top of the mountain. Lu Haoyang originally planned to enter the light-filled room in the dean's building to practice, but he never thought that Yu Tianheng and the others would follow him. However, he had no choice but to meditate in the open space on the top of the mountain and do some physical training. Yu Tianheng is also meditating. Osluo and Yu Feng are training for battle, and Yi Lingling and Duguian are trying to combine the exciting poison of biphosphorus red poison with the healing power of Jushin Haidang to see if they can create this is a unique trick to keep teammates in a state of excitement without losing physical strength. The two brothers Graphite and Shimo are fighting each other to enhance their body's ability to resist. Just like that, more than 10 minutes pass quickly. Everyone's cultivation has not made much progress. To put it mildly, they are not wasting any time in practicing. To put it badly, they are wasting their precious lunch break. This kind of practice obviously has no good results. Shigao walked out of the branch campus building and was about to go down the mountain to the canteen to eat when he found that there were still students practicing in the open space. Taking a closer look, it turned out to be the class led by Qin Ming, including Lu Bao, Yu Tianheng, and others. Hey, you brats have eaten enough to hold on, right? After dinner, go back to the dormitory and rest. Why are you wasting your energy here? Hearing the rough voice, Lu Baolon and Yu Tianheng looked at the sound at the same time. The person who made the sound was Shigao, the combat instructor. Shimo, what's going on with you two? Shigao came to the Shi brothers who were fighting and asked, are you itchy? What are you doing here? Shimo scratched his head and said, Father, we are practicing. Cultivation? Shigao glanced at everyone in shock, almost laughing. Does your level of training count as cultivation? Did you guys get some stimulation and suddenly started practicing like crazy here? Is this considered practice? You are clearly torturing yourself. Teacher, we know that this will not have any effect. Yu Tianheng responded. However, if you persist every day, it will always help to improve your strength. It's useless to help. Shigao cursed. Listen, soul masters do not improve their strength by being ignorant and working hard. Soul power and martial soul. Both of these things require strong thoughts to control. If you want to practice them, you must have plenty of energy and spirit, so the break at noon is very important. Do you know why the practice of mimicry is placed in the afternoon? Lu Hao shook his head, and everyone shook their heads too. Shigao said seriously, because you have eaten enough and slept well at noon, you have the energy and physical strength to carry out mimicry practice in the afternoon. Mimicry practice can assist soul masters far more than various training resources. You are now using your noon time to practice. It seems that it's very hard, but it's an extremely stupid approach. Because the mimicry practice in the afternoon is the time for you to quickly improve your strength. If you don't eat or sleep at noon, you not only waste your rest time, but also delay the mimicry practice in the afternoon. This is not stupid. What is it? The day's courses and training arrangements were designed by 3 education committee members. Why are the mimicry training grounds closed at noon and evening to allow students to have a good rest? Why are the theoretical classes and practical classes held in the morning, while mimicry training is conducted throughout the afternoon? These all make sense. As long as you follow the academy's arrangements and practice, you will definitely grow faster than the soul masters in other academies. Being impetuous and eager for success will only make you stumble everywhere. After listening to Shigao's explanation, Lu Baolu cleared the clouds and saw the sun. He was really anxious because he didn't have any plugins on him. If he wanted to pursue power, he could only practice martial arts and soul power down to earth and seize the opportunities mentioned in the original work. Teacher, I'm sorry. Lu Bao said apologetically. It's my fault that caused everyone to follow me in meaningless practice. Shigao patted Lu Bao's shoulder, looked at everyone again, and said with a smile, if you understand, go and eat quickly, sleep well at noon, and practice hard in the afternoon. Don't do such stupid things in the future, especially your brother U2, Graphite Stone Mill. If a defensive soul master wants to have strong physical fitness, eating is the first priority. If I see you too hungry again, I will beat you up when you get home. After the lunch break, the bell rang on time, summoning all students to the college's classroom or playground. Under the leadership of Qin Ming, Lu Baolon, and Yu Tianning walked straight up the stone steps towards the top of the mountain. The afternoon class was the same as before, and we went to the mimicry field on the top of the mountain to practice. Breathing in the fresh air, the refreshing feeling quickly made Lu Bao and others wake up from the tiredness of their lunch break. Lu Bao found that Shigao was right. After eating well and sleeping well, only with sufficient energy can he practice mimicry better. The training process of a soul master requires a step-by-step approach. If you can grow quickly if you practice hard, and you can become stronger if you practice tirelessly, then how come there are so few titled Douluo on the mainland? Everyone arrived at the top of the mountain and went to their own mimicry training ground. Lu Baoyang and Yi Lingling came to the grassland mimicry field near the dean's building. It was a garden-like shrubbery with various flowers and plants growing on the grass. It was sunny, and there were shadows of various buildings and plants. It was very suitable for both of them to practice. Where were you yesterday? I didn't seem to see you around. Yi Lingling asked curiously. I went to a place that is very suitable for shadow martial arts training, and I will go there later. If there is anything I don't understand, I will ask you again, so I'll leave it at that for now. After saying that, Lu Bao turned into a shadow and swam towards the direction of the dean's building, aiming for the light-filled room in the dean's building. Yi Lingling didn't care so much, found a place to sit down, and started meditating. Lu Baoyang came downstairs to the dean and changed from his shadow state back to his human form. Before leaving the light-filled room yesterday afternoon, he placed a small stone in the corner of the room in order to directly enter the room through the shadow of the stone. Just when he was about to use his first soul skill, Shadow Lock, to lock the shadow of the stone, a gentle voice suddenly stopped him. Lu Bao. Looking to the left, the person coming was the Prince Shui Qingyi who had just walked out of the door of the dean's building. I remember your name is Lu Bao, right? Shui Qingyi looked at Lu Bao with confusion. Why did you come to the dean's building if you don't go to practice? Lu Bao said calmly. I practice in the grassland mimicry field near the dean's building because there are many buildings nearby and there are more shadows. So I want to find out if there is an environment more suitable for my practice nearby. So that's it. Shui Qingyi seemed to be remembering something. He took out a palm-sized transparent crystal ball from nowhere and brought it to Lu Baoyang. He smiled and said, this crystal ball, according to the blacksmith, it is made of a kind of name, forged from the best material of light crystal iron and other rare materials. It has the effect of enhancing light. Shadows are produced by light. I think this crystal ball will have a certain auxiliary effect on your practice. When you practice mimicry, you can think of this crystal ball as a crystal ball for testing soul power. Inject soul power into it, and then place it in a place with light to make the light in that place stronger. As he spoke, Shui Qingyi handed the crystal ball he was holding to Lu Baoyan and continued. I just happened to find that there is such a thing in the dean's building that is suitable for shadow martial arts training. So I will give it to you. Your Highness, how embarrassing is this? Lu Bao took the crystal ball and thought, how embarrassing is it not to accept it? Shui Qingyi smiled lightly and said, if I have any valuable training resources in the future, I will give them to you first. You are an elite student trained by the academy, and you deserve it. Lu Bao, I am very optimistic about you, and I hope you will not let me down. Expectations. If you need anything, you can come to me in the Dean building, whatever you could do. Qingyi will do his best. Okay. Lu Badon agreed readily. If you have time another day, You can come to the Dean's building to have tea and chat. We just need to get along like friends, so there's no need to be too restrictive. I have to rush to the palace to discuss matters, so I'll excuse you now." After saying that, Shui Qingyi bowed slightly and left. Looking at the figure fading away, Lu Bu thought to himself that the original work was indeed correct. Qian Rinxue was very talkative after disguising herself as Shui Qingyi, and her conversation gave people a calm and generous feeling. It was very comfortable to chat with him. Not only did he not have the air of a prince, but he was also approachable and easy to accept. If he hadn't known in advance that Shui Qingyi was someone else pretending to be someone else, Lu Baohai would definitely have thought that he was the real Shui Qingyi. He would suddenly send a crystal ball that would be helpful in the training of shadow martial arts. It was obviously after careful consideration, right? Lu Baoli stared at the crystal ball in his hand. Whether he is Shui Qingyi or Qian Rinxue, I can be sure of one thing. What he likes is not me as a person, but the uniqueness of the shadow martial spirit. The second soul skill, Shadow Attack, allows people to turn into shadows, move freely in the shadow state, and shuttle freely between shadows. It can also increase speed and attack attributes. Using such a soul skill in a team can greatly increase the team's attack power. But used in an army, it can be a murderous and invisible shadow core, enough to reverse the situation in a national war. Shui Qingyi also said that he would give me priority in sending any training resources in the future. Does he want to give me a favor so that he can better recruit? Who cares? The most important thing now is to improve my strength. As long as it can make me grow quickly, I will accept all the favors that come my way. Putting aside all worries in his heart, Lu Bao used his first soul skill, Shadow Locking, to lock on the light-filled room in the Dean's building, and then locked on the stone shadow in the corner of the room, connecting his own shadow and the stone shadow into a channel. After escaping into his own shadow, Lu Baoli had already arrived in the room full of light when he reappeared. However, he still maintained a shadow state and overlapped with the shadow of the stone in the corner of the room. After careful inspection, he found that there was no one inside or outside the room before he returned to his human form. Looking at the transparent ceiling and then at the crystal ball in his hand, Lu Bu thought, with the ceiling enhancing the sunlight and the crystal ball intensifying the sunlight, it seems that today's mimicry practice will be more effective than yesterday's. Good. Lu Baoyang came to the center of the room, sat cross-legged, holding the crystal ball presented by Shui Qingyi in both hands, and poured his soul power into the crystal ball. I saw the palm-sized crystal ball shining with dazzling light, absorbing Lu Bai's soul power and increasing the light intensity in the room, turning the entire room white. Chapter 23 Shadow Control Strangulation, Part 1. After the soul power is injected into the crystal ball, the light emitted by the crystal ball becomes more intense, and the light enhancement effect in the room is also greater, making the entire room turn white, as if you are in a world of light. As he continued to inject soul power into the crystal ball, Lu Baobao felt a sense of energy loss. It seemed that the crystal ball's auxiliary training was achieved by absorbing soul power. This is not a bad thing. Lu Baobao can practice mimicry while improving his soul power control. The longer he uses the crystal ball to assist in training, the better his control ability is and the more precise his control of soul power. Under the extremely strong sunlight, everything in the room seemed to have turned into a sea of light. The silver on the walls turned into white, and the transparent ceiling also turned into white, stretching as far as the eye can see. There was only Lu Baoli's figure sitting cross-legged on the ground, and his shadow was reflected on the ground. The shadow of the shadow had never been dark, which was enough to show that the shadow martial spirit was in an extremely active state. As for Lu Bao, he was also cultivating at several times the speed. His soul power and martial spirit continued to grow with the help of strong light. When there is no mimetic environment for training, Lu Bao's soul power increases as slowly as drop by drop of water into an empty water tank. With this light-filled room to assist him in his training, his soul power increased at a faster rate, like ladle after ladle of water poured into an empty water vat. Now, with this crystal ball in a light-filled room to assist him in his cultivation, his soul power increases as fast as a steady flow of water into a water tank. If he practices at this speed, he can improve his soul power by 2 or 3 in half a year. It is still possible to achieve super soul power. 2 hours later, Lu Haoli put the crystal ball he was holding on the ground. He had very little soul power left and could not inject more soul power into the crystal ball. The endless white color in the room gradually disappeared, gradually revealing the silver walls and transparent ceiling. Everything in the room returned to its original state, and the auxiliary effect on cultivation was greatly weakened. Lu Haoli closed his eyes and concentrated, and continued to meditate. Although there was no assistance from the crystal ball, the light in the room was still enough for mimicry practice. During the meditation process, he was concentrating on sensing the light around him, and at the same time adjusting his breath, trying to quickly restore the soul power he had just consumed. Another hour later, Lu Haoli's soul power recovered by 1/5. He stopped meditating and stood up. He couldn't help but secretly rejoiced in his heart. When he poured soul power into the crystal ball, there was also the process of recovering soul power. He became more proficient in controlling soul power. Learn a new trick. The 3 soul rings under his feet lit up. Lu Haoli locked the shadow of the stone in the corner of the room, and then used the 3rd soul skill shadow control on the shadow of the stone. He did not freeze the shadow of the stone, but controlled the changes in the soul power when he injected soul power into the 3rd soul ring, thus changing the control effect of the 3rd soul skill shadow control. Under Lu Haoli's control, the shadow of the stone suddenly rose from the ground and instantly wrapped around the stone tightly. Successful. Lu Liliang was overjoyed. If the shadow was wrapped around the neck of a certain soul master, wouldn't it be just a matter of a thought to kill him? Use the opponent's shadow to strangle the opponent to death. This move is called shadow control strangulation. Like shadow immobilization and shadow position swap, shadow control strangulation is a self-created soul skill based on the 3rd soul skill. The soul master must inject soul power into the soul ring in order to release the soul skills attached to the soul ring. Due to this rule, Lu Haoli understood the idea of creating his own soul skills, which is to accurately inject soul power into the soul ring, controlling the changes in soul power. In this way, the soul skills released by the soul ring can be changed. If you want to control the shadow on the ground to leave the ground and entangle its owner, you need very precise soul power control to create such a mutation effect in the soul ring skill. Furthermore, the first 3 soul rings were gifted by the system. The potential of the soul rings is the same as that of soul rings given by gods. They both produce soul skill effects that are most suitable for the absorber, so they have such high plasticity, making them the possibility of creating your own soul skills is greatly increased. Lu Haoli had never been more excited, because after comprehending the 3rd soul skill, shadow control strangulation, it proved that he had become extremely proficient in soul power control. Now controlling shadows was as easy as controlling a certain part of the body. There will be a soul battle with Douluo in the practical class tomorrow morning. Let's use her to test the combat effect of shadow control strangulation. The next day, morning, Tiando Royal Academy, playground. The college bell rang, signaling the end of the theoretical class. The students left the classroom and gathered on the playground. They will have practical instruction classes later. Yesterday's soul battle between Lu Haoli and Douluo resulted in Douluo being defeated miserably. Douluo refused to admit defeat, so the two made an appointment to have another soul battle today. On the soul fighting stage, Lu Haoli and Douluo were facing each other face to face. Douluo's eyes were full of fighting spirit, but Lu Haoli didn't get enough sleep because he stayed up late practicing with the crystal ball given by Shui Qingyi last night. His mental and physical condition was not very good, and his temper was naturally a little irritable. Douluo stared at Lu Haoli fiercely. "You are dead today? Come on. You said the same thing yesterday. But what's the result?" Lu Haoli muttered to himself, rubbing his eyes after staying up all night. "I beat you all over the floor, and you still don't want to admit defeat. You can make people shut up with just a few words of ridicule. Your breasts are so big, but your mind is quite small. Shut up." Douluo couldn't bear the sudden insult and stomped his feet angrily. "Lu Haoli, I was afraid of poisoning you yesterday, so I didn't use all my strength. Today I won't show mercy. By the way, Lu Baoan suddenly became energetic and reminded, as promised yesterday, if you lose again, you have to admit defeat. Also, you promised me that if you lose, you will find something from your grandfather. I think give me the treasure you want. Stop talking nonsense. Let's get started. After saying that, Douluo Yin was possessed by the martial soul. His feet turned into snake tails. 3 soul rings were beating on his body, and the aura of soul power instantly dyed the surroundings dark green. Why? You didn't arrange those stones on the soul fighting platform today. Douluo Yin then noticed that the soul fighting platform was very clean, not littered with stones like yesterday. Lu Baoyan smiled lightly and said, because I found that it doesn't take that much trouble to deal with you. There is only one level of soul power gap between us, and your green phosphorus snake venom can't poison me to death in an instant. And I want to deal with you. Control is just a matter of a thought. Yesterday afternoon, when I was practicing, I happened to understand a new skill, a skill that can end the battle instantly. If you don't believe it, you can try it. Within 30 seconds, we can decide the winner. Chapter 24, Shadow-Controlled Strangulation, Part 2. When I was practicing yesterday afternoon, I happened to understand a new unique skill, a unique skill that can end the battle instantly. If you don't believe it, you can try it. Within 30 seconds, we can decide the winner. The soul fighting begins. Before Qin Ming could shout these words, Douluo Yin shouted out on her own. The next moment, she pushed forward with both palms, and the second and third soul rings under her feet lit up at the same time. Learning from the lesson learned last time, Douluo Yin wanted to win the battle quickly, because ranged soul skills consumed much more soul power than other soul skills. She had to use the strongest poison in the shortest time to control the enemy before she could let herself go. Never fail. Douluo Yin admitted that Lu Baoyan was right. With only one level of soul power difference, the green phosphorus and purple poison could not turn him into pus in an instant. Therefore, Douluo Yin immediately used biphosphorus purple poison and biphosphorus red poison, and then mixed the 2 poisons into a stronger poison. Once the mixed poison formed and enveloped the entire soul fighting platform, even if Lu Hao is a soul sect, it is impossible to easily resist the erosion of mixed poisons. Quick victory. This is why Douluo Yin is so confident today. Unfortunately, Lu Baoyan also learned from the experience of the last soul fight. He knew that it would take a certain amount of time and soul power for Douluo Yin to mix the 2 poisons. And with the 50% speed of the second soul skill Shadow Attack, how could it be possible to achieve a preemptive strike by increasing the amount of fusion and poison that would allow Douluo Yin to get his wish? What's even more regrettable is that Lu Baoyang is very different from yesterday. Not only has he mastered the new skill of shadow control strangulation, but his shadow martial spirit has also undergone subtle changes. With the help of the light-filled room and the crystal ball presented by Shui Qingdi, the shadow martial soul's training speed has been accelerated as never before, and it has become more sensitive to the capture of light energy. It's close to noon now, when the sun's rays are at their strongest. Strong sunlight can stimulate the potential of the shadow martial spirit to the extreme. It can be said that under the strong sunlight, all of Lu Baoyan's physical attributes are much better than before. In addition, he can accurately control the distribution of soul power, making the release speed of soul skills is almost instantaneous. I saw 3 soul rings under his feet lighting up, and 3 soul skills were activated at the same time. Lu Bao first locked onto Douluo Yin's shadow before the green phosphorus red poison and green phosphorus purple poison appeared. A strange feeling appeared in her heart, and Douluo Yin knew that it was Lu Bai's first soul skill that locked his shadow. If the shadow was not allowed to disappear, the consequences would be disastrous. Just when she was about to cast poisonous mist to cover her body in order to hide her shadow, Douluo Yin was startled. She found that the green phosphorus red poison and green phosphorus purple poison she had just cast did not appear on the soul fighting stage. At this moment, she was already in a state of being unable to move. My shadow? Douluo Yin's heart tightened. She was actually frozen by Lu Bao's 3rd soul skill, shadow control. So her body couldn't move, and she couldn't gather her soul power to use green phosphorus, red poison, and purple poison. His shadow control shouldn't be so fast. Yin couldn't understand that there was a certain delay in the release of Lu Bao's 3 soul skills. Judging from yesterday's soul fighting, in terms of speed, the poisonous mist control is completely faster than Lu Hao's shadow control. How come he was defeated first today? Lu Baoyan, what on earth did you do? Yan's shadow was frozen, and he couldn't move his body. He stared at Lu Baoyan with doubtful eyes. Your soul skill control shouldn't be that fast, right? Did you secretly let it go? Which auxiliary soul master used the attack speed increase on you? Yinzi, I can only tell you that the stronger the light, the stronger the shadow. Lu Baoyang raised his head and stared at the big round sun in the sky, and said regretfully, the weather is quite good today, but it's a pity that you are unlucky. This fight will soul, you lost again. Yin snorted disdainfully. Do you think I can't break free from your shadow? You won't have a chance to escape, because now I can make your shadow come alive. After saying that, the 3rd soul ring under Lu Baoyang's feet rotated violently. After different levels of soul power were injected into the 3rd soul ring, the soul skills attached to the soul ring produced different control effects. The shadow under Yan's feet seemed to be alive. It suddenly shot up from the ground and coiled up under Yan's feet with extremely strong binding force. In an instant, Yan was tightly wrapped around his body and limbs by his own shadow, and his neck was also strangled by his own shadow. Seeing this scene, not only Yu Tianheng and the others, but also other students watching in the audience were shocked. Their expressions were as horrifying as if an ice snake was crawling up their backs. Watching Yin closely as the shadow wrapped around his body and strangled his throat, Qin Ming was also shocked. How could Lu Bao make the shadow attack his master like a living creature? Chapter 25 Shadow Control Strangulation Part 2 The shadow attacked its master like a living creature. Seeing this scene, the students present were frightened and speechless, and their hair stood on end. Of course, the one who was most surprised and frightened was Yin, who had personally experienced this strange phenomenon. At this moment, Yin was not only immobilized by her shadow, unable to move, but also wrapped around her body by her own shadow, tightly binding her neck. The strong binding force squeezed her neck, causing her face to suddenly turn red, and she could not even speak. Can only struggle in the endless feeling of suffocation. This feeling is like waking up suddenly during sleep, but unable to speak or move the body. Yin struggled painfully, and the shadow restraining her neck became harder and harder. It became more and more difficult for her to breathe. There were many blue veins bulging on her fair and smooth skin. Her eyesight turned black, and she seemed to die at any moment. Yin knew that it was extremely difficult to break away from the shadow, let alone the shadow that wrapped around her body and strangled her neck. With only one level of soul power difference, it was impossible for her to break free from the shadow's entanglement. If Lu Bao had murderous intentions towards him, he would have been strangled to death by his own shadow. Thinking of this, Yin had the idea of giving up in his heart, because the feeling of having a shadow wrapped around his neck was too uncomfortable, and struggling on the edge of being infinitely close to dying was simply a torture worse than death. However, she is the granddaughter of poisoned Douluo Dugibo and the #1 female genius in Tiando Royal Academy. How could she be willing to lose? And how could she be willing to lose to the same opponent twice? If you give in now, wouldn't it prove that your more than 10 years of hard work have been in vain? He has the guidance of his grandfather, who is a titled Douluo, has the resource support of Tiando Royal Academy, and has such a powerful poison control ability. As a soul master who specializes in the control system, he gave up to Lu Bao, an amateur control system soul master. Admit that you don't have as much control as he does? Yin is very stubborn. Not only the Jilin Education Committee, but everyone who has been with her can see that she is obsessed with winning and is proud of herself as a control system soul master. Now, how could she be like an amateur control system soul master? The soul master raised his hands and surrendered. On the mainland, soul masters are all unruly people, and which soul master can afford to lose? Yinzi, give up, Lu Baohai advised while carefully controlling the intensity of the shadow entanglement. If you persist any longer, you will only faint and there will be no improvement. Yin was still struggling hard. All she could think about was how to break free from the shadow that was strangling her neck, and she had no idea of admitting defeat. Seeing Yin in such pain, Yu Qianheng and others in the audience wanted to run up to the stage to stop the spirit fight, but were stopped by Qin Ming because he knew that Lu Bao had a sense of proportion, and the worst-case scenario was that Yin would faint. Unfortunately, there will be no death. However, if Bo knew about this spirit fight, Lu Bao might be killed. Who in the academy dares to treat Yin like this? Even the 3 members of the education committee were careful in their actual sparring with Yin, for fear of hurting Yin and provoking Bo. Of course, Lu Baoyang knew that treating Yin like this would most likely anger Bo. He was frightened when he met Bo after beating Yin violently last time. Now that Yin is being tortured like this, if Bo learns of this, he will definitely be cut into pieces. However, Lu Hao is also a stubborn person. He has his own obsessions. He will never show weakness to anyone. He just wants to do things the way he likes. Even if he is killed by Bo because of this, he will not compromise and let Yin win, or let Yin play house everywhere. A battle is a battle. This is a battle of souls. Lu Baoyang's idea is very simple. If Yin doesn't admit defeat, then force her to admit defeat. Why should she care about whether she will offend Bo? Why should people restrict what they want to do? Lu Baoyan and Yin both had their own stubbornness. Due to each other's obsession, the 2 sides were in a stalemate for 3 minutes. In the end, Lu Baoyan loosened the shadow's restraint on Yin. The shadow that entangled Yin's body and neck suddenly retracted to the ground. She was no longer tortured by any restraint force, nor was she affected by the shadow's immobilization. The weak he fell to his knees, his face turned red, veins bulged everywhere, and he kept coughing and gasping for air. Staring at her own shadow on the ground with trembling eyes, the fear in Yin's heart flooded into her brain. For a moment, she thought she was really going to be strangled to death by her own shadow. Lu Bao took back the 3 soul rings and walked towards Yin with a sigh of relief. Yinzi, you lose. Hearing these words, the fear in Yin's heart was replaced by unwillingness. In his weak state, but with extremely determined eyes, he stared at Lu Baoyan. I haven't lost yet. As she spoke, she was about to stand up, but found that she could only kneel on the ground, unable to move her body, and her shadow was frozen again. Yin gritted her teeth and stared at her shadow with resentment. From today on, she wanted her shadow to disappear forever. She hated shadows the most in her life. Isn't it just that you lost a soul fight? As for forcing yourself to do this, when the voice sounded, Lu Baoyan was already squatting in front of Yin and asked, have you never lost before? Yin was still panting rapidly, with a deep strangulation mark on his neck. He calmed down for a while before replying. What are you so proud of, Lu Bao? I will definitely poison you to death next time. Next time? No matter how many times you lose, you will lose. Don't you understand yet? There is a difference between the spirit fighting in the actual combat class and the spirit fighting in the big spirit fighting arena. The meaning of the spirit fighting in the actual combat class is to discover each other's shortcomings, not to compete. Strong and competitive. Through these days of fighting souls, I found that my shortcoming is that I am not as talented as you. And your shortcoming is that you are not yet proficient in controlling soul power. Lu Baoli said seriously, if you are skilled in controlling soul power and know how to distribute soul power, you can purposefully enhance the toxicity or weaken the toxicity of a certain area of the poisonous mist in a large area of poisonous mist, thereby reducing the consumption of soul power. Haven't you discovered this flaw of yours so far? You should first become proficient in the control of soul power instead of foolishly competing with others. Lu Baoan, please stop preaching in front of me, Yin said nonchalantly. If there is a next time, I will poison your mouth first. Come on, I'm tired of hearing this. Lu Baoan sneered. You are worse than me in terms of soul power. But in terms of combat quality, you are not as good as me. In terms of mentality, you're also not as good as me. The use of soul skills, and there is also a big gap between us in terms of soul power control. Lu Bao smiled and said, what? You can't compare to me. So why do you poison my mouth? Why can you defeat me? Every word was so plain, but to Doga Yan's ears, it was like thunder, and every word stuck in her heart. Her unwillingness and sense of failure stimulated her competitive spirit, making her eyes have a few red threads. Doga Yan wanted to argue and refute, but what Lu Bao said was true. He couldn't find a reason to refute at all. He could only treat himself as a loser and listen to the victor's talk. If you were right, how can you lose? Still lost twice in a row. There were some tears in Doga Yan's eyes. Her life from childhood to adulthood was almost smooth sailing, so failure hit her harder than others. How can a genius who has never experienced setbacks feel better when he is faced with successive failures? Seeing Doga Yan's tearful and helpless appearance, Lu Baoyan lamented, "There is no problem with being persistent in victory, but one must face failure bravely. If you lose, you lose. What does this mean? You still have to practice." Chapter 26, Meeting Shui Qingyi again. If you lose, you lose. What does that mean? You still have to practice. Practice. Doga Yan looked at Lu Baoyan unwillingly. Every day, I practice hard, practicing martial arts, honing soul skills, and practicing mixing poisons. Don't these still count as training? Forget it. But you have to find the right direction to practice hard. Lu Bao responded, "You don't need to practice other things next. You should practice soul power control first, because you are a control soul master. Even your own soul, if you can't control the level of energy consumption, how can you control others?" After a moment of silence, Doga Yan's rapid breathing gradually calmed down, and he said calmly, "Let me go." Lu Baoyan released the shadow immobilization, and Doga Yan's body could move freely. He stood up and put back the few tears that were rolling in his eyes. At this moment, Doga Yan's face was no longer unwilling and resentful, and it was a little more determined. He looked at Lu Baoyan and said seriously, "I will fight with you after I become proficient in controlling my soul power. Then I will torture you with jade phosphorus snake venom, and let you experience the taste of failure. And then I will pretend to be superior and preach to you." Lu Bao smiled and nodded. Doga Yan saw Lu Baolan's gaze suddenly lowered, and after a pause he said, "You win this soul fight. I keep my word, I will not ask you to fight souls with me during this period. I will also learn from my grandfather. Then I'll find a treasure for you." After saying that, he walked off the soul fighting stage. Next is the actual soul battle between the auxiliary department. Lu Bao stayed on the stage, and Yi Lingling walked up. They formed a team, and Oslo and another auxiliary department soul master in the class formed a team. The two sides began to fight. The college bell rang, the practical class was over, and it was now time for lunch and rest. Lu Baolan, Yu Tianheng, and others no longer thought about spending noontime practicing. Instead, they listened to Shi Gao's dissuasion and ate well and slept well at noon, so as to be mentally prepared for the afternoon practice of mimicry. After lunch, the students and teachers returned to their dormitories to rest. The mimic field and other places were temporarily closed, and the entire college became completely quiet. At this moment, in the dean's building on the top of the mountain, a sacred aura burst out from the light-filled room and rushed in all directions. The four walls of the room have the function of isolating the aura, but the sacred aura erupting at this moment is too overbearing and cannot be isolated. Fortunately, the two titled Douluo, Agatha and Snake Spear, who were guarding outside the room, suppressed the sacred aura and avoided being discovered. Mrs. Seraphim Martial Spirit Aura seems to be more pure than before. Snake Spear Douluo, who was hiding in a dark corner outside the room, thought to himself, "Grayfish, we must be more careful in the future. Don't let the angel martial spirit, the aura of the soul, is exposed, so as not to attract the attention of the three old guys Mengshinji." Galway Douluo, who was also hiding in a dark corner, replied calmly in his heart, "Yes." A room filled with light. Taking off Shui Qingyi's disguise, Qian Rinxue turned back into a woman. The sacred aura that had just been suppressed by the array snake spear Douluo was released from her body. Although her soul power was not increased, the aura of the Seraphim's martial spirit was becoming more pure. According to her grandfather, this is particularly important for the future inheritance of the angelic throne. After finishing the practice of mimicry, Qian Rinxue stood up and stared up at the transparent ceiling. In her eyes, the sun in the sky was still so hot. The angel martial soul could use part of the power of the sun's true fire. So in this sky full of sunlight, practicing in the room facilitates the use of this power. The voice of Snake Spear Do rang in Qian Rinchue's mind. Miss, the college bell has rang and the lunch break is over. It's time for you to return to your identity as the crown prince. You don't have to go to the palace to discuss matters today. However, in order to avoid being discovered, you'd better go early. It's better to end your cultivation. I got it. You two uncles don't have to stay in the academy. Let's go back to Wuhan Hall first. I'll bother you at noon tomorrow. After replying in her heart, Qian Rinxue changed back to Shui Qingyi. When I was about to leave the room, I noticed a stone the size of a green date placed in the corner of the room. The small stone was tightly attached to the corner of the wall. It would be difficult to spot its existence if you didn't look carefully. Shui Qingyi picked up the small stone, observed it carefully for a while, then looked up at the wall of the room, thinking, could it be that the sacred aura that just broke out shattered the wall? Is that why there are small stones falling on the ground? However, the four walls of the room were intact, and there was no trace of damage. So how did this small stone appear in this room? The only person who can enter this room is yourself. How could Shui Qingyi have thought that this small stone was placed in the corner of the room by Lu Haoli in order to quietly enter and exit the room for cultivation through the shadow of the stone? With 2 fingers, Shui Qingyi crushed the small stones into powder, carefully checked every corner of the room, and left the room only after finding no other abnormalities. There was no need to go to the palace to discuss matters with Emperor Shuiyi later, so the afternoon was free. Shui Qingyi planned to stay in the academy for a while and take the opportunity to get close to some of the outstanding students he had chosen. Lu Baoyang, who has a shadow martial spirit. There is also Luo Siki, the son of a high-ranking official in the Balak Kingdom, who already has level 58 soul power at the age of 29 and the martial soul sunflower. Another grandson of the leader of the Holy Dragon sect, Tuo Bisyong, possesses a mutated light attribute beast martial spirit. These 3 students are what Shui Qingyi admires more, and they're also the ones he thinks will be most valuable to him in the future. Yesterday, I gave the 3 of them some cultivation resources. Today, I can invite them to the Dean's building to chat, build more good relationships, and enhance their relationship. Shui Qingyi's method of winning people's hearts is very simple. That is, he adheres to the idea of good birds choose trees to roost in. Excellent birds will choose ideal trees as their habitat. Shui Qingyi believes that he does not need to work hard to persuade others to submit to him. He only needs to show others the benefits of submitting to him. It's like giving Lu Bao a crystal ball that helps in the cultivation of shadow martial arts, telling him that he has sufficient training resources to provide him with anything he wants. And since he is the prince, he will naturally not succeed in inheriting the throne in the future. Treat him badly. Seeing these benefits, Lu Bao should know what choice to make. Of course, these are all methods of courtesy first and then fighting. If the person Shui Qingyi likes is unwilling to submit to him and still refuses to submit after using various methods, then he has no choice but to erase him. It would be a pity to kill some geniuses, but it would be a shame not to kill them. While planning the people to meet later, Shui Qingyi had already walked out of the door of the Dean's building and found a student sneaking around near the Dean's building. Shui Qingyi looked at this student with a puzzled expression. Yesterday, this student seemed to be wandering near the Dean's building. Lu Bao, if you don't go to practice, why did you come to the Dean's building again? Just when Lu Baoli was about to use his first soul skill to target the small stone shadow placed in the corner of the light-filled room, he suddenly heard someone calling his name. He looked toward the voice and found that the person speaking to him was Prince Shui Qingyi. Your Highness, I would like to find out if there is a mimetic environment around here that is suitable for my practice. Lu Bu thought to himself that he would better enter the light-filled room in another place in the future. It was really blatant near the Dean's building. Yesterday, I gave you a crystal ball that is helpful for shadow martial arts training. As long as there is light, the crystal ball can have a good training effect with the help of it. Shui Qingyi reminded. As far as you are concerned, all mimic fields should now be suitable for your practice. So that's it. Thank you, Your Highness, for reminding me. Then I'll go to the nearby grassland mimicry field to practice. After responding, Lu Bao was about to leave, but was stopped by Shui Qingyi again. Shui Qingyi smiled lightly and said, If you are not in a hurry, We can go to the dean's building to have tea and chat. As the acting dean, I also want to hear the students' suggestions on the college's cultivation arrangements. Chapter 27, I have a grudge against Douluo Dean's building, lobby. In front of the tea table, Shui Qingyi and Lu Haoli sat face to face, and the maid made tea for them. The college's training arrangements were designed by 3 educational committee members. These days, do you think such training arrangements are still reasonable? Shui Qingyi said, if something is wrong, you can make some suggestions. Lu Haoli nodded, that's reasonable. I'm very glad that I can join the Tiando Royal Academy. In less than 10 days, my soul power has been raised by 1 level, and it is now the 36th level. Oh, Shui Qingyi said with some surprise. This should be all the result of mimicry practice. Lu Haoli smiled and said, thanks to the crystal ball given by His Highness the Crown Prince. With it, I can also practice by moonlight at night, and in the process of injecting soul power into the crystal ball, I can also improve the control of soul power. Meow. There are just too many places. As long as it's useful to you. Shui Qingyi took a sip of tea and said, if you need any more cultivation resources, just tell me. I can give you whatever you want. However, you must let me see you. Growth. Lu Haoli nodded. I will. By the way, if possible, can you talk to me about your future plans? Shui Qingyi smiled slightly. Your shadow martial spirit is very unique. Your cultivation talent is quite good, and you work hard enough. After you graduate, many forces are paying attention to you. Which force do you want to join and develop? Lu Haoli shook his head. I don't know yet. After participating in the elite competition in 3 years, I should be able to graduate. I will travel throughout the continent by then, and I probably won't consider joining a force. If the Empire wants to recruit me, I may have to wait until I won't be willing to join until a few years later. Then have you ever thought about developing your career in Wuhuan Palace? Shui Qingyi suddenly asked. Lu Haoli was silent for a while, thinking that if the Shui Qingyi in front of him was the real one, he would not hesitate to say that he had never thought about it. However, the Shui Qingyi in front of him was Qian Rinxue in disguise, so he behaved in front of her. There is nothing wrong with wanting to join the Spirit Hall. After thinking about it again, Lu Haoli decided not to show his preference for Wuhuan Palace. After all, in Shui Qingyi's view, Lu Haoli didn't know that he was Qian Rinxue. The Spirit Hall is a place that soul masters yearn for. It is a holy place dedicated to serving soul masters. There are all kinds of training resources. After graduating from the academy, it should be the most suitable place for the development of soul masters. Shui Qingyi asked tentatively. He said, no matter which soul master you are, you have the intention to join Wuhuan Palace. You should also have it, right? Lu Haoli shook his head. I'm so sorry, Your Highness. I haven't thought about any of this. I only know that the most important thing now is to practice hard, improve my strength, and strive to bring glory to the college in the elite competition 3 years later. As for the rest, I want to wait until I have traveled the entire continent before making any plans. Okay then, I won't embarrass you anymore. Shui Qingyi took another sip of tea and said calmly, it seems that you yearn for freedom and an unfettered life. Lu Haoli nodded slightly and took a sip of tea. Since you haven't thought about the way to go in the future, let's talk about your past. Shui Qingyi suddenly said, LV Bao, you are a commoner who joined the academy with the title of top student. The qualification of top student is determined by it is issued by 3 education committees, and the 3 education committees must get my approval before I can apply for you. Excellent students are not approved arbitrarily. The identity and background of the student must be investigated. Neither I nor the 3 education committee members have been able to investigate your family information, and the collected information has no record of your martial soul awakening. It seems that there have never been any families or soul masters on the mainland that use shadow as their martial soul. Speaking of this, Shui Qingyi's gentle eyes changed a little, and there was a bit of doubt in his deep eyes, and he asked, can you tell me about your family situation? Where did you awaken your martial spirit? And who helped you awaken your martial soul? If it was the Wuhuan Hall that helped you awaken your martial soul, with your martial soul talent, you should have been recruited into the Wuhuan Hall long ago. Hearing this, Lu Haoli's heart tightened, but his expression remained unchanged. He looked at Shui Qingyi hesitantly, paused for a while, then smiled lightly and said, Your Highness, I am an orphan. I don't have any family. I am just a commoner's child. My parents' martial arts spirit, it is a shadow with fire attributes and has no soul power. My shadow martial soul is inherited from my parents. A shadow with fire attributes? Shui Qingyi was puzzled. Can shadows also have elemental attributes? Of course. Lu Haoli said, if you go and investigate, you should be able to find a soul master with the Hokage martial spirit in an advanced soul master academy called Blazing Academy. My ancestors and that soul master's family, there is a slight connection. Shui Qingyi shook his head in doubt. There's no need to check. But I don't know why your parents died. When you were young, your parents were still very young, right? They were killed. Lu Hao's face suddenly became heavy, and his words were a little more desolate. Our village disappeared more than 10 years ago. Shui Qingyi was a little surprised. What on earth is going on? Your Highness should know about Douluo, right? Lu Haoli said with a fake look on his face. Back then, several strong soul masters appeared near our village, and their battles were very fierce. The terrifying collision of soul skills produced destructive energy. The impact was widespread, and my village and surrounding buildings were destroyed due to their fighting. If my parents had not used their bodies to resist the destruction of energy from me, I would probably cease to exist. At that time, I watched my parents being blown into bloody water by the energy in front of me. The person who burst out this destructive energy was the clear sky hammer spirit of Douluo. I only found out later that the destruction of my village had caused it was the battle between the strong man from Wuhuan Palace and Douluo that destroyed my family. Although these were all fabricated based on the information provided in the original work, to Shui Qingyi, everything seemed consistent. He felt that Lu Bao was not lying. Back then, her father led many powerful men from Wuhuan Palace to fight Haotian. Luo's war indeed affected a wide area, and it makes sense that some unknown villages would be implicated. After all, most of the orphans adopted by Wuhuan Palace were picked up from villages that had been reduced to ruins. And aren't the people who turned the village into ruins the same powerful men with terrifying strength? Thinking of this matter, Shui Qingyi also became sad. Her father Qian Xuanji also died at the hands of Douluo. I didn't expect you to have such a past. Shui Qingyi's doubts about Lu Haoli were completely eliminated. He took a sip of tea and stopped asking questions. The hall fell into silence. Your Highness, this is why I practice so hard and why I am so eager to gain power. Lu Baoyang's eyes were full of resentment. He gritted his teeth and clenched his fists and said coldly, I want to become stronger. Douluo destroyed my village. I just want to have the power to destroy his sect. Hearing these words, Shui Qingyi was happy from the bottom of his heart. He also wanted to kill Douluo himself and destroy the Haotian sect. The enemy of his enemy was his friend. It seemed that it was easier to win over Lu Bao than anyone else. I can understand your mood. Shui Qingyi sighed and said empathically, It is not a gentleman to retaliate if you have a grudge. I don't have any grudge against Douluo, but I support you. So, if you need anything in the future, please feel free to ask. Tell me, I will do my best to help you. The sooner you become a strong man, the sooner the Tiando Empire will have someone to rely on. Lu Bao smiled bitterly and bowed slightly to Shui Qingyi. Then, Your Highness, if you have nothing else to do, I would like to practice as soon as possible. Shui Qingyi smiled and said, Go ahead. Let's talk more when we have time. After leaving the hall of the Dean's building, Lu Bu thought to himself that this was the best excuse he could think of on the spot, and he hoped that Shui Qingyi would not go into it further. At least, wait until you have the chance to reveal your identity after taking the grass jelly. Lu Haoli hid in a deserted place, used his first soul skill to lock onto the light-filled room, and looked for the shadow of the small stone in the corner of the room. What puzzled him was that there was only a strong light in the light-filled room, without any shadow, and the small stone he placed in the corner was missing. What's the matter? After pondering for a moment, Lu Haoli suddenly realized that maybe someone had entered the light-filled room and discovered the small stone in the corner of the room, and had already cleaned the small stone? Who was using that light-filled room? The image of Shui Qingyi suddenly appeared in Lu Bai's mind. Shui Qingyi was the acting dean. Apart from some attendants, Shui Qingyi was the only one left in the Dean's building. The light-filled room might have been built privately by Shui Qingyi. Why did Shui Qingyi build such a mysterious room? It's because of mimicry practice. Lu Haoli remembered that the original book said that the sacred and flame attributes possessed by the seraph martial spirit were themselves attributes of light. And doesn't the light of angels require powerful light energy to cultivate? That light-filled room was probably built by Qian Rinxue for the purpose of cultivating the seraph martial spirit. Doesn't it mean that that room is a den of thieves? Damn. Fortunately, every time I go into practice, Qian Rinxue is not there. If she happened to be there, the scene would be so embarrassing. While thinking about it, Lu Haoli had given up the idea of entering that room to practice. Compared with rapidly improving his strength, he wanted to grow steadily and try not to provoke the people in Wuhuan Hall. Maybe I can pretend to submit to Qian Rinxue. In this way, I can legitimately enter that light-filled room to practice. Lu Haoli thought Qian Rinxue likes to use others, so he can use her to gain all kinds of benefits, cultivate resources, and grow quickly. Once she has enough strength, will she still be able to contain herself? However, there will always be a deviation between fantasy and reality. Pretending to submit to Qian Rinxue is undoubtedly seeking the skin of a tiger. If you make a wrong move, you will be finished. Lu Haoli sighed helplessly, and his lack of strength made him fall into confusion. Everyone said that traveling through time was a kind of enjoyment. So why did he have more troubles than when he was in Blue Star? It's better to go with Douluo Yan's idea. Depending on her, we might be able to get the chance of getting the jelly grass soon. After taking the jelly grass to transform the body, everything will slowly get better. On the top of the mountain, in the mimetic field of the foggy forest, in a certain hazy area, Douluo Yan was sitting cross-legged, concentrating on feeling the changes in the surrounding fog. The mist is mixed with a large number of tiny particles that are not very toxic. Such an environment can have a very good auxiliary effect for soul masters with poison attributes. Not only can they practice martial arts and soul power, but they can also reduce the toxicity associated with soul skills. Become stronger. With the poison-resistant physique given by the poison martial spirit, Douluo Yan is not worried that the poisonous mist in the forest will harm him. While practicing, Douluo Yan recalled what Lu Haoli said to her when she was practicing the spirit battle in the morning. Her lack of proficiency in controlling soul power is indeed her shortcoming, but the soul skills used by the jade phosphorus snake are all for large-scale control. How easy is it to control a large-scale poisonous mist like she can control her hands and feet? Looking back on the morning's actual battle spirit, Douluo Yan regarded Lu Haoli as an imaginary enemy and was simulating an actual combat training in her mind. Chapter 28, there is no written notice in the boys' dormitory that girls are not allowed to enter. Looking back on the morning's actual battle spirit, Douluo Yan regarded Lu Haoli as an imaginary enemy and was simulating an actual combat training in her mind. As he became more concentrated, the simulated sparring scene in his mind became more and more real. But the result of the sparring was so unreal. In every simulated sparring match, Douluo Yan's jade phosphorus snake venom tortured Lu Haoli half to death. Douluo Yan also enjoyed this result, but she felt it was too unreal. If she really looked like the simulated opponent, even if you practice, you could defeat Lu Haoli many times. But why did you lose so miserably in the morning? From Douluo Yan's point of view, no matter how many times she beat Lu Haoli in sparring in her mind, it was always a fantasy. Too unreal. Douluo Yan can imitate Lu Haoli's fighting style, but cannot imitate his ability to adapt to situations. After all, the most important thing for a control-type soul master is the ability to adapt to changes. Each soul master has a different personality and fighting mentality, which cannot be simulated at all. With a sigh in his heart, Douluo Yan wished he could rush to the grassland mimic field to find Lu Haoli for another soul battle. It's a pity that she lost in the morning. According to the rules, she couldn't ask Lu Haoli to fight her soul during this period, and she had to find a treasure from her grandfather and give it to Lu Haoli. Thinking of this, Douluo Yan's closed eyes suddenly opened, with a bit of resentment on his face. That stinky bastard, what kind of mimicry training is he doing now? Yesterday we fought back and forth with him, but today he actually did it in front of him. There is no resistance left. 8 p.m. The mimic training grounds and playgrounds have been closed. The hard-working students return to their dormitories to rest after a day of practice. Most of the lazy, noble students returned to their dormitories when they were tired from traveling. Female dormitory building. Dogu Yin and Yi Lingling walked back to the dormitory together. Their dormitories are also on the highest floor, Room 7 and Room 8 respectively. Rooms 1 to 6 are their seniors. They're all over 20 years old and are also outstanding aristocratic female geniuses. On the way to the dormitory, Dogu Yin suddenly asked, "Lingling, are you and Lu Haoli practicing in the same mimicry field?" Yi Lingling nodded. "Then what kind of training is he doing? Does he meditate like us?" Dogu Yin asked. Yi Lingling shook his head. "No." Dogu Yin was a little surprised. "So his training is indeed different from ours, so there is such an obvious strength gap? What kind of training is he doing?" "I don't know." Yi Lingling shook his head again and said, "He and I are practicing in the grassland mimicry field, but I haven't seen him since the first day. Maybe he went to some remote place to practice." "All right. Didn't teacher Qin Ming say that the grassland mimicry field is the most suitable for him?" Dogu Yin asked curiously. "Where else can he go to practice?" Yi Lingling shook his head again, walked to the door of his dormitory, and smiled lightly. "Yin Yin, if you want to know, why don't you ask him yourself?" After saying that, he walked into the dormitory. Watching Yi Lingling close the dormitory door, Dogu Yin sighed and returned to her dormitory. How could she ask Lu Haoli in person? She had hated shadows since this morning, and she hated people who could control shadows even more. Late at night, Dogu Yin walked out of the dormitory and went to the top of the building to look at the moon. Her life has been smooth sailing since childhood, so failure hits her harder than others. The successive failures, as well as the poisonous green phosphorus snake, made Dogu Yin very depressed and unable to sleep. So he went to the roof of the building to admire the moon and relax. Standing quietly on the roof, blowing the evening breeze, looking at the bright moon in the sky, and the refreshing atmosphere in the mountains and forests, the combination of these made Dogu Yin's depressed mood suddenly improve. Breathing the fresh air, Dogu Yin felt that she had left all her worries behind, but he accidentally saw the shadow under his feet, and his irritability suddenly appeared again. Every time he saw his shadow, Dogu Yin would always think of the fighting spirit in the morning. His shadow suddenly came to life and wrapped around his body, almost killing him. Strangled. This feeling is so terrifying. Now that Dogu Yin sees the shadow, he will feel uneasy, and he is unwilling to lose to Lu Haoli. So he naturally feels irritable. Is that the light of the soul ring? Dogu Yin noticed that there was light flashing on the roof of the boys' dormitory opposite. The yellow and purple lights blended together, and he could faintly feel the changes in the soul power. Could it be that who secretly went to the rooftop to practice? Besides Tian Hung and the others, who else is so diligent in the boys' dormitory? At this time, the Sure brothers must be sleeping as heavily as dead pigs. Is it Oslo? Or Yufeng? Lu Haoli. Dogu Yin's guess was right. In the afternoon, Lu Haoli learned that the light-filled room was for Qian Rinchue's exclusive use, and he no longer dared to sneak into practice. As a result, the effect of mimicry practice in the afternoon was much worse than before. Fortunately, the crystal ball given by Shui Qingyi can also assist in the training of shadow martial arts. Simply injecting soul power into the crystal ball can make the surrounding light stronger. That's why Lu Haoli thought of going to the roof of the building to practice with the help of moonlight. At this moment, Lu Haoli was sitting cross-legged on the ground, holding a crystal ball in both hands. 3 yellow, and purple soul rings were beating on his body. As the soul power was injected into the crystal ball, the light blue soul power aura also emitted from the body, lingering. All around, under the influence of the crystal ball, the intensity of the moonlight shining on Lu Haoli was comparable to that of the sun at noon. The enhanced moonlight was not as intense as the sun's rays, but it had a considerable auxiliary effect on the training of the shadow martial spirit. In addition, there are mountains and forests near the dormitory, and the ground reflects the shadows of various plants and buildings. In such an environment, the training effect of the mimic field can be fully exerted. Lu Haoli closed his eyes and concentrating on controlling the amount of soul power injected into the crystal ball. He slowly inhaled through his nose and then slowly exhaled it from his mouth. The soul power breath fluctuated subtly with his breathing, and he breathed in continuously, exhaling slightly. It actually formed a wonderful cycle. The 3 soul rings stopped at the bottom and rotated at a gentle speed. With the help of the crystal ball, the light of the soul rings was also strengthened, making Lu Batty's shadow on the ground darker. Although moonlight is sunlight reflected by the moon, there is still a difference between the two. When practicing under the sun, the shadow martial spirit will be in an extremely active state. When practicing under the moonlight, the shadow martial spirit will behave so docile. Could it be that will the shadows produced under the light of day and night be different? While sensing the shadows and light of objects hundreds of meters in radius, Lu Haoli was also thinking about the different feelings that occurred during the practice. He felt that his head was itching, as if he was about to grow a brain. After 2 hours of meditation, Lu Baoyan slowly opened his eyes. What he saw was not the night scene, but Douluo Yan's green eyes. Yinzi! Lu Baoyan was obviously startled by the sudden appearance of Douluo Yan in front of him. Why are you here? This is the boys' dormitory. Douluo Yan frowned. What's wrong with the boys' dormitory? It doesn't say that girls are not allowed to enter. You're really a fucking genius. Lu Baoyan didn't say these words, he just complained in his heart. Why does it say no boys allowed in the girls' dormitory, but not no girls allowed in the boys' dormitory? Just think about it. Boys can have sex with girls, but can girls have sex with boys? So of course boys are prohibited from entering. No wonder the gap between us is so big. Douluo Yan said unexpectedly. Lu Bao, it turns out that you practice secretly at night without telling us. Lu Bao took back his soul ring and soul power and sneered. Yinzi, don't look for comfort in your heart. Even if you practice secretly every night, you still can't beat me. The gap between us is not as simple as you think. Douluo Yan really couldn't stand Lu Bao's harsh tone, put his hands on his waist and shouted. Can you speak properly? Why is your tongue more poisonous than mine? Really? Lu Baoyan smiled jokingly. Have you tasted it? How do you know that my tongue is more poisonous than yours? Douluo Yan was even more irritated. She couldn't defeat him, and her venomous tongue that she was proud of couldn't defeat him. How could she meet such an annoying guy in such a normal college life? It was really uncomfortable to be suppressed everywhere. I'm done practicing. You can stay here as long as you want. As he said that, Lu Bao had already stood up and walked towards the stairs. Wait a minute. Douluo Yan suddenly stopped him. So that's what you meant by still need to practice. What do you mean? Lu Liang was puzzled. Douluo Yan said, in the practical soul fighting class this morning, you said you should be brave enough to face failure. If you lose, which means you still have to practice. It turns out you're not talking nonsense. You have always practiced more diligently than us. No, Lu Baoyan explained. I neglected my practice in the afternoon, so I wanted to take some time to make up for it in the evening. I just happened to be seen by you. It's getting late, Yinzi. Go back to bed quickly. If you are too lazy to go if you go back to the girls' dormitory, you can sleep in my room. My bed is big and comfortable. Your bed is not as big as mine, nor as comfortable as mine, Douluo Yan replied unwillingly. Lu Bao smiled and said, then let's compete to see whose bed is bigger and more comfortable. How to compare? Douluo Yan started to compete. Lu Bao said with a smile, you go to my bed to sleep first tonight, and I will sleep in your bed tomorrow night. You really think I'm stupid and easy to fool. After saying that, Douluo Yan rolled his eyes at Lu Baoyan and jumped off the roof, then walked back to the girls' dormitory. Back in the dormitory, Douluo Yan had to stay up late to practice, and she had already lost to Lu Bao in terms of control, but she didn't want to lose in terms of diligence. Chapter 29 Shadow vs. Blue, Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex. 1. In the morning, Theory Class. Class 1, Tiendo Level Classroom. On the podium, the Jillian Education Committee was explaining the knowledge about soul beasts to the students. How to identify the cultivation level of soul beasts. How to analyze the weaknesses of soul beasts through their habits. How to save lives in a forest full of soul beasts. How to prevent sneak attacks by soul beasts, drive away soul beasts, etc. For a soul master, the knowledge of soul beasts is too important, but after practicing all day long, his body and spirit are very tired, and he has no intention of reading any more books about soul beasts. The theory class is a way for soul masters to quickly acquire knowledge about soul beasts. Teachers who are experienced or specialize in theory can sort out the knowledge about soul beasts that soul masters need, and then let students learn in the most direct way. In this theoretical class, all the students were listening carefully because they all knew that after listening to a theoretical class on soul beast knowledge, they would benefit for life. Lu Bao happened to lack the knowledge about soul beasts, so of course he listened very seriously. He went into the Sunset Forest alone, but he had to face the threats of various soul beasts, and having more knowledge about soul beasts would definitely be beneficial. The Jilin Education Committee was very satisfied with the students' performance in class. The theoretical class on soul beast knowledge was the easiest and most fulfilling class he had ever taken. His eyes swept across each student's seat. Jilin's satisfied smile suddenly turned serious, and he shouted, "Douluo Yin, Yin Yin, Yin Yin, Yin Yin." It wasn't until Yu Tianheng whispered his name for the third time that Douluo Yin's head lying on the desk was slightly raised, and his sleepy eyes swept forward in confusion. "What were you doing last night?" Jilin said sternly. "You are the first student who dares to sleep in my class." Oslo chuckled. Jilin Education Committee, Sister Yinzi, is also the first student to tell you to shut up. Hearing this, everyone burst into laughter. Douluo Yin was finally awakened by the slightly mocking laughter and glared at Oslo fiercely. Oslo was so frightened that he quickly shrank his neck and hid behind Yu Lingling, thinking, as long as he couldn't see Douluo Yin the geese cannot see him. "Quiet, class," Afterly shouted. The classroom instantly became quiet, and Jilin continued to explain the knowledge about soul beasts. Douluo Yin didn't dare to sleep anymore and sat upright to listen to the lecture. She would not do this normally, but she couldn't sleep last night and went to the roof to admire the moon and found that Lu Haoli was secretly practicing on the roof late at night. Douluo Yin couldn't sleep because he was defeated twice by Lu Haoli, and seeing Lu Haoli practicing so diligently, Douluo Yin couldn't sleep even more. "So, when I returned to the dormitory last night, I stayed up late and meditated hard, so I was in a bad state today. After all, meditation cannot replace sleep. Yinzi, if you don't sleep for a long time, it will induce a decline in cognitive function manifested as inattention, lax memory, and even cause cognitive decline. In the long run, you will become mentally retarded." A clear and light voice said. A voice came from behind Douluo Yin. "You must ensure adequate sleep and avoid staying up late for a long time." After hearing this kindly reminder, Douluo Yin turned around and looked at Lu Haoli sitting behind him. It was him who made the sound. "Lu Haoli, didn't you stay up late last night?" Douluo Yin was curious. "Why do you look so energetic?" Lu Haoli stared at Douluo Yin's slightly dark-rimmed eyes and said with a smile, "You guess." Listening to the conversation between the two, Yu Tianheng, who was sitting on the right side of Douluo Yin, was a little flustered. "What's going on?" "You guys stayed up late to practice together last night." Douluo Yin turned around and looked at the podium, did not answer, and listened quietly to the lecture. Lu Liang didn't say anything and continued to listen. Oslo tugged on Yu Tianheng's sleeve and said softly, "Captain, Lu Baoan and Sister Yinzi have been very close recently, so be careful. Maybe one day they will not only stay up late to practice together, but also stay up late to practice together." Yu Tianheng snorted coldly. "Leopard, if I tell Lu Haoli and Yin Yin what you said, will you be able to withstand their fists and jade phosphorus snake venom?" Oslo was silent. Yi Lingling did not participate in the chat, but was also listening to everyone's whispers. Last night, Douluo Yin asked her many things about Lu Haoli, and she asked Douluo Yin to ask Lu Haoli himself. Did Douluo Yin really go to the boys' dormitory last night to ask? They didn't really stay up all night together last night, right? Thinking of this, Yi Lingling's thoughts returned to the classroom. She didn't like to think randomly, especially things that had nothing to do with herself. The college bell rang, signaling the end of the theoretical class. The students left the classroom and gathered on the playground. They were going to have practical lessons later. Arriving at the Tiando Class 1 area on the playground, Lu Baohao discovered that the teacher in class today was not Qin Ming, but Shi Gao. It is said that Qin Ming took leave to deal with matters in other cities, and Shi Gao came to teach these days. After hearing the news, Osluo, Yu Feng, and Graphite Shimo instantly became haggard. looking like they had no hope of life. Seeing that all the classmates in the class were as cowardly as the four Oslo, Lu Baoyu probably knew. It seemed that Shi Gao's practical class was far more terrifying than Qin Ming's. This practical class was probably not just as simple as actual combat. Yu Tianheng, Osluo, Yufeng, Shirimo, and Lu Baobao, Yu Lingling. You guys come out, Shi Gao shouted in several lines. Those who were named stepped forward and walked to the front of the line. Shi Gao looked at Lu Baolon and Yu Tianheng and said with a smile, "Today's practical lesson will start with you. As usual, you will form a team to fight with me. If you can hurt me, you will be counted as a real fighter. If you pass the class, you will not be punished. If you fail the practical class, then you will have to run around the playground 100 times carrying a heavy turtle shell. The others will watch the battle first. When Yu Tianheng and the others lose, you will form a team of 7 to fight against me. Those who fail will be punished." After listening to Shi Gao's request, all the students nodded with a bit of bitterness on their faces. This is Shi Gao's teaching method of corporally punishing students who fail in practical classes. Perhaps this teaching method is related to the fact that he is a Defense Department Soul Master. However, the 3 education committee members did not deny the practice of corporal punishment of students. Because Soul Masters not only need to cultivate their inner soul power in martial arts, but also need to strengthen their bodies. Although Shi Gao's teaching methods are a bit excessive, they have merit. Oslo smiled faintly and reminded, "Teacher Shi Gao, we injured you in the last practical class. Is your request a bit low for us now?" "Low?" Shi Gao sneered. "Today I will let 7 of you play together, plus Lu Bao. I will pick 8 of you one by one, and let me see what effect the 8 of you will produce together. However, the requirements for the 8 of you really need to be changed. In the actual battle later, I will use 40% of my soul power and 1 soul skill to fight you." "Teacher, which soul skill do you want to use?" Yu Feng was a little scared. Shi Gao smiled. "Don't worry, I only use the first soul skill. Isn't that simple?" Oslo showed a look of confidence on his face and hummed to Shi Gao. "Together, the 8 of us have Lingling's healing ability and Lu Baoli's shadow assistance. If I can form a dual control lineup with Sister Yanzi, can I still beat you?" Half an hour later, on the playground, Lu Baoyin and Yu Tianheng's actual battle with Shi Gao resulted in a complete defeat and failed the practical class. At this moment, 8 people carrying heavy green turtle shells were running on the playground. "Damn it, big guy. How come your father's #1 soul skill is so different from yours?" Yufeng asked Shirimo, who was also running beside him as he ran. "The 8 of us together can't shake his turtle." "Shell defense," Shirimo responded. "Once the Xuanwu turtle martial soul possesses the martial soul avatar, its defensive capabilities will be fully exerted. Even if the martial soul avatar is not used, its defense under normal conditions is several times that of others. What's more, with the first soul with the increase in skills, if we want to shake my father's defense, our attack power must be at least soul sect level." "I didn't tell you earlier," Oslo complained. "I can't believe that Teacher Shi Gao's turtle shell defense can prevent Sister Yanzi's green phosphorus, red and purple poison without taking anti-poison pills. Yu Xuanwu turtle martial spirit, it's too perverted." After hearing this, Lu Baoyang suddenly remembered. He stopped for a moment while carrying the heavy green turtle shell, then ran side by side with Douluo Yan behind him and asked, "Yanzi, when you were fighting with Teacher Shi Gao just now, what did you do? What are the dark green pills we ate?" "That's an anti-poison pill." Before Douluo Yan could say anything, Osluo, who was running in front, rushed to say, "Sister Yanzi's poisonous miscontrol will make it easy for us to control the enemy. In order to avoid accidentally injuring teammates, Sister Yanzi will do it before every battle. Use the jade phosphorus snake venom to condense anti-venom pills for us to take. This way we can be unaffected by her poisonous mist." "Really?" Lu Baoyan looked at Douluo Yan with some surprise. "You are not even very skilled in soul control, but you can actually condense 7 anti-poison pills for us at once?" Just as Douluo Yan was about to speak, Oslo said first, "Condensing the anti-poison elixir is not as difficult as you think. You only need to gather the poison mist and weaken the toxicity to form a shape similar to the elixir bead. Because the anti-poison elixir contained by phosphorus snake venom is weak, So not only will we not be affected by biphosphorus snake venom after taking it, our body will also develop a certain resistance to biphosphorus snake venom. Sister Yinzi's ability to condense anti-poison pills is actually equivalent to a sword-wielding soul master's ability to condense sword energy. It's no big deal. Douluo couldn't bear it any longer and kicked Oslo hard on the butt. He heard a wow sound, and Oslo and the turtle shell he was carrying flipped several times in the air before falling to the ground. Lu Badai roughly understood Oslo's explanation. In the team battle just now, the dark green pill that Douluo asked his teammates to take was the so-called anti-venom pill. To put it bluntly, it was similar to a snake venom serum. Taking the anti-venom pill condensed by Douluo into the stomach is equivalent to injecting snake venom serum into the body, thereby obtaining antibodies against the venom of the phosphorus snake. In this way, one will not be affected by the venom of the phosphorus snake for a short period of time. Yinzi, how long can the anti-drug ability of your anti-poison pill last? Lu Haoli asked. In the actual battle just now, it seems that you only gave us one dose, so it can last at least half an hour? Douluo nodded. If you take my anti-poison pill, within half an hour, you will not be affected by the biphosphorus poison in my biphosphorus snake venom mist. Then if I take your anti-poison pill, how long can I last in the poisonous mist cast by your grandfather? Lu Bao asked with interest. Chapter 30 Shadow vs. Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex 2. Then if I take your anti-poison pill, how long can I last in the poisonous mist cast by your grandfather? Lu Haoli asked with interest. The Jade Phosphorus Snake and Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor Martial Souls have different levels, but their toxicity from the same source. Taking your anti-poison pill should also give you the ability to resist the poison of the Jade Phosphorus Snake King poison. Right? Douluo thought for a while and raised his index finger. I can probably hold on for about a minute. That depends on the thickness of the soul power my grandfather gathered when he released the poisonous mist control. At this point, Douluo frowned. Why do you ask these things? It's okay. I want to see the gap between myself and titled Douluo so that I can be more motivated to practice. Lu Haoli thought that he could secretly hide a few of these anti-poison pills in the next team battle. If you go to Sunset Forest and take anti-poison pills before passing through the poison array set up by Douluo, you should be able to pass through the poison array more safely and reach Douluo's medicine garden. On the soul fighting stage, Shirgao was engaging in actual soul fighting with other students while observing the penalty runs of Lu Haoli and others. He was extremely satisfied and said, "Very good. It seems that they have all adapted to the weight of the turtle shell. Let them double their weight. If they can persist for a few months, these children will definitely be far superior to other soul masters in terms of physical strength and endurance." Lu Baoan. This brat has such outstanding strength and endurance. Even the turtle shell on Yu Tianheng's back is not as heavy as his. He seems to be running very easily. His shadow martial spirit should not be a powerful martial spirit. Shirgao looked at the fierce sun in the sky. Could it be that the sunlight temporarily enhanced his physical attributes? Shadow, this is really an incredible martial spirit. After completing the punishment of running 100 laps around the playground while carrying a turtle shell, the 7 of them, Lu Bao and Yu Tianheng, returned to the soul fighting stage and continued to follow Shirgao's training arrangements. The other students were still punished by running on the playground. Shirgao asked Yi Lingling to treat everyone. As soon as the 9-hearted begonia appeared, the fragrance and white petals fell on Lu Bao and others. The fatigue disappeared instantly, and their physical strength was completely restored. The next actual combat content is a 2-person soul battle. Shirgao faced the 7 people Lu Haoli and Yu Tianheng who were lined up and shouted, "Yu Tianheng, Douluo, Yi Lingling, Lu Haoli, you 4 get out of the queue." The 4 people named took a step forward and walked out of the team. Shirgao's eyes passed over the 4 of them, and he paused for a moment before saying, "This 2-person soul battle is mainly to compare the auxiliary abilities of Lu Bao and Yi Lingling. Yu Tianheng, your strength is the strongest in the team. The stronger one should team up with Yi Lingling, who is the weakest. Lu Baoan and Douluo will team up." Hearing this arrangement, Douluo looked at Lu Baoyan in surprise, while Yu Tianheng looked at Douluo in surprise. Douluo was surprised. Why did Teacher Shirgao want her to team up with Lu Baoyan? Rather than becoming a teammate, she wanted to become an opponent with Lu Bao, so that she could have another soul battle and test whether the practice of skilled soul control these days had paid off. Yu Tianheng was surprised. Why were Douluo and Lu Baoyang assigned to a group? During the theory class in the morning, Oslo reminded Yu Tianheng that Lu Baoyan and Douluo had been very close recently, and said that they stayed up late to practice together last night. Even if Oslo is talking nonsense, even if it is just a rumor, Yu Tianheng would rather believe it than believe it. After chasing Douluo for 2 years, if he is really taken away by Lu Bao, who has just entered school, then what will happen to him? Where does he put his face? Yu Tianheng admitted that he wanted to date Douluo, largely because of the instigation of his family. If Douluo married the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect, it would be equivalent to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect taking control of Douluo, a title fighter who was famous for his poison. Luo. However, in addition to family reasons, Yu Tianheng himself also has a lot of affection for Douluo. Of course, 2/3 of this affection is because he is interested in a beauty like Douluo, but the other third is sincere. Which man wants to see the woman he cares about develop a relationship with another man? Teacher, why are you doing this? Yu Tianheng asked. Shigao smiled. Because Lu Baoyan is a soul master with both auxiliary and control systems. When Douluo and Lu Baoyan form a team, Lu Baoyan can not only assist Douluo, but also form a dual control cooperation with Douluo. In the team, it is very advantageous to have 2 control-type soul masters at the same time, so the 2 of them must be familiar with each other's cooperation. Yu Tianheng, your 3rd soul skill can greatly enhance your lightning power, but the side effect is that it will continue to deplete your physical strength. Yi Lingling's 9 hearts and Begonia can just continue to restore your physical strength. If you two cooperate well, even if you face an opponent with the peak strength of the soul sect, you still have the possibility of winning. And Oslo and Yufeng both belong to the Agility Attack System Soul Masters. Their cooperation must also be trained in a targeted manner. The same goes for you 2 brothers, Graphite Shimo. Your defense is the barrier for the entire team. In team battles, you must also form a tacit cooperation in pairs. This is the training that the 8 of you should do at this stage. Shigao said confidently. Believe me, after all of you develop a tacit understanding, the Tiando Royal Academy team will become an extremely outstanding team. After hearing these words, Oslo felt excited and clenched his fists excitedly. Teacher, I will definitely make the team even better. Shigao smiled jokingly. Oslo, only 7 players can play in a regular team match. If Yi Lingling and Lu Baoli play at the same time, you will be the one who is substituted.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.